Hello everyone, hi. This is gonna be a bit of a long workshop. I've done this once before, and it was about 4 hours. If you need to leave, leave. I don't judge you. I won't judge. I won't judge. If you need to leave, leave. I'm gonna be recording it, posting it on YouTube, chaptering it. You will be able to reference this whenever you need it. Don't worry about it. I got you. We're going to be teaching you how to do MixItUp. Now, if you are familiar with MixItUp and you know it really well, stick with me in the beginning. It may feel like we're going through the basics, but as someone who I've been playing around and I've been pushing MixItUp for, I think, 2 years at this point, I learned stuff doing and planning this workshop. So stick with me. Sometimes if you skip over the basics, you miss little tricks that you can use when you start to do the more complicated stuff. So, I recommend sitting through, following along. Now, like I say, 4 hours, but I have good reason. There's a quick look there. That's probably the longest part of this workshop. But I'm gonna be looking through setting up MixItUp with you. Then we're gonna look at pre-made commands, basic commands, and we're going to make basic commands together. How overlays work, I know when it comes to MixItUp, a lot of people get a little bit lost when it comes to overlays, which is fair because they don't have a really nice visual way of doing them. We're going to go over overlays, how they work, where you can use them. Timers, events, currencies, counters, games, shops, Twitch redemptions. Lots. These are all just the basic stuff that we're going to go through. These are the basics. I'm going to get you acquainted with them all. I'm going to help you establish knowledge on these things before switching over to the more complicated stuff, which is conditionals. And I'll be showing you the building blocks that I use when planning to make a more complicated command, system of commands maybe, get you comfortable with conditionals. I'm going to teach you some automations that I do, which before everyone leaves, I'm going to teach you one thing. Before everyone leaves, I'm going to teach you one automation, which you'll thank me for if you don't know it already. I promise you're going to thank me for if you don't know it already. And then I'm going to share some inspiration. I have made a completely new, fresh instance of MixItUp. I've made a completely new profile, so I'm going to be starting from scratch with you in this, which I didn't do for the first one, and I absolutely showed myself how many things I have going on. It's a lot, so I didn't want to overwhelm you all with everything that I already have, and I'll be building it up with you. So, by the end of this, I'm hoping some examples of what you'll be able to do that I've got going. You'll be able to do timed Twitch redemptions that'll turn themselves on and off. Commands that can update each other, automate processes like stream setup and stream closing, a rotating VIP system, custom-made games, alerts, currencies, and I hope you'll have at least, minimum, a little bit more confidence in MixItUp today. We will see. Now, a little disclaimer before we go any further, I am self-taught in this. I don't know everything about MixItUp, and the knowledge I have on it is purely through experience. You may know a different way to do things, you may prefer a different way of doing something, that is completely okay. If it works, it works. And you will love that way of thinking the more you delve into MixItUp. It doesn't matter how it works, doesn't matter how messy it gets. If it works, that's all that matters. I'm just hoping that when you go and explore the things that are available in MixItUp, you can at least have a bit more of a confident knowledge on that. Now, if you want to follow along, I do recommend having your application open and having MixItUp open so that you can navigate along with me. Easiest way that I learn is, well, the best way that I learn is by doing. So I do recommend it. Maybe if you don't want to have the application open, writing down things that you realize are important to you, so then you don't need to follow along if you don't want to. But again, I am recording this for future reference, so there's no real pressure. If you have any questions, I will be having sections in between, so we'll be taking breaks every now and again so that we can build commands together. During those times, that is when I'll be available to answer questions if you have them. So make sure you write them down for yourself, and then we can rapid fire them when we get to that. Getting started! I have made a new profile. I'm going to help you with making the profile and connecting it. I'll be talking through making the profile, connecting services, customization, connecting a custom bot if you want a custom bot, and bot settings. This will just be getting yourself ready to make commands. Now, if you're like me, when you make a profile in MixItUp, you'll get this little pop-up here. How many of you saw that and actually read it? Because I didn't the first time that I launched the app, because I was like, oh, I'm sure that's fine. I don't need to worry about that. This is important. This is why Drew, sorry to out you, got the command wrong. So this is blame YouTube. Okay, YouTube, this is why you got your command wrong. This is why when you made a redeem that's daily and it's giving people currency, this is why the first time they redeem it, it's 0 and not 1. You're getting the order wrong. These actions, when you make commands, they're working from top to bottom. You need to make sure that order is correct, otherwise it will go wrong. For example, with this daily redeem, you want to make sure it adds the currency before it sends the message. Otherwise, it's sending the message whilst they still have 0 currency because you haven't added anything yet. Make sure you have the order right. This is hugely important. Another thing that's really important to know about MixItUp is it only works when it's open. It is a local software, so it needs to be open to work. And make sure you open it before you open your streaming service, your whatever software you use for streaming, for example, OBS. Because otherwise you're going to have to refresh your alerts. So if you find that you keep having to refresh all of your overlays every time you open OBS, this will be why. Make sure that MixItUp is the first thing you open. If you're going to be streaming that day, open it on, have it set to open on launch if you need to. That's what I do. MixItUp opens on launch and then I never forget to have it open before stream. Make sure it's open, because it will not work without it. It is not an online service. So, you've made your account. When you've signed in, it will ask you to log in. You will have done this before getting to this point. Don't worry about the custom bot. We'll do the custom bot in a second. But you will have signed in here. Now we're going to go into settings. You're going to get acquainted with a couple of the settings that are available. Just so you're aware of them. I didn't realize some of these settings were available until way down the line, and I wish I'd known them earlier. First off, you've got your general. So this is where you can change your profile name if you have multiple. You can also choose for it to auto log in. So if you only have one profile and you just want that to log in automatically every time you launch the software, just get that checked, and then that will sort it for you. You've also got your defaults here, so you can choose your language, you can choose what streaming platform you use and what streaming software you use. If you use Meld Studio, it won't be here, but don't worry, there is a meld action within the commands, which I will talk about later. You will probably want to be using that one instead. I don't know why meld isn't here, but it is a relatively new thing that they have added to MixItUp, so that is probably why. You can also edit where your default audio output is. Default is just the application itself, so the application will make the noise. However, I personally like to have it set to MixItUp overlay, and then in my streaming software, have it set to be able to control audio through OBS. That way you can control your audio in OBS, and that way you can also choose whether or not you can hear it, whether stream can hear it, or whether both can hear it. It's a nice way to make all the audio problems a little bit simpler. Then you've got themes and colours, so you'll maybe be looking at mine and thinking, why is yours green and white? Mine looks different. Themes and colours. There's loads to choose from. You used to have to restart MixItUp between selecting these. You don't anymore. So you can just choose whichever way you want it to look if you're bothered and want to make it look different. I like this one. I thought it was the cutest in my opinion. You might want to leave it as default. It's just a nice thing to know about. Chat. If you use the chat section of MixItUp, which is this little section here, you can change how it looks. You can choose your font size, you can choose how the messages look in between each other, whether or not there's a timestamp, what the bot messages look like. You can have the pronouns and BTTV emotes and FFZ emotes in here if you want them, so you can select them. You can hide avatars, role badges, all of that. And you can also make custom colours. So if you want a regular to have a different colour to a follower, to have a different colour to Twitch staff, you can assign each of these roles to have a different colour so that when you're just looking at chat, you can easily tell who's who. Now, the commands section is beautiful. I love this a whole bunch. There's a load that you can edit in here. So if you want your commands to be whispered, you can choose that. I don't recommend it. Twitch doesn't have the best support for bots whispering, and some people do have like permissions and security in a way that you can't whisper anyway. So use that with caution. Ignore your bot account for commands is an important thing to be aware of. This will be whether or not your bot can trigger itself. So if you're like me and you want your bot to react to itself, say something happens in chat and it says a specific word or a specific sentence that's never said in any other case, and I want my bot to react to that, I want to have this off. If this is like the important thing, because I made this mistake and then suddenly I had a wall of emotes, right? If you want your bot to see an emote in someone's message and respond with that emote, please, I beg, ignore your bot account for commands, because otherwise you're going to get a wall of messages because your bot can see that emote in its own message and it is posting it again and again and again. So it just depends on how you want to use your bot. I have it off because I want my bot to be able to look at something it's posted and respond to itself. Delete chat commands when run. I personally don't recommend having this on just because I know a lot of people have a plugin that actually completely invalidates that and will make a larger wall of messages. But if you want the commands themselves to be deleted when they're run, you can do that. Mass gifted subfilter amount is how it's going to stop. That's how it different. You know when people get a gift sub and it will post a subscriber message for each gift sub that like each specific person who gets gifted that sub instead of a mass gift sub all in one. This is how you're going to make that difference. So this will prevent that instance happening. This will mean that if anyone gifts more than one gift sub, it will only send the one alert saying there was a mass amount of gift subs. This has nothing to do with like sub counts or anything. It is just whether or not the alert is triggered and how that alert is triggered. You can change how the commands are locked. There's loads of here that you can, I genuinely, I really recommend reading through the settings. Something really important, in my opinion, to pay attention to is if you scroll down here, this is how you're gonna make MixItUp less overwhelming. It can be really overwhelming to have a look at all of the options that you have available and not know where to start. These are everything you can do in the bot with a command. You can turn them off. You can make it so that there's not everything. If you know you're not going to use something, you can toggle it off. So like, for example, here, I'm not going to be using an external program today. I'm not going to be using the game queue. I'm not going to be using if this, then that. Not using that. I'll keep Meld Studio on just so I can show you Meld Studio because I know some people may use it. Don't use that. Don't use Music Player. Don't use this. Don't use that. All this. All this. All these. I don't use Streamlabs. There is a Streamlabs one though. If you use Streamlabs, there is an option for Streamlabs. I won't be going over anything to do with specifically Streamlabs in here. If you do, I recommend going and exploring that for yourself. There's text-to-speech in there. I won't be going over that today, so we may as well hide it. Don't use this. Don't use this. Don't use that. All this. All this. There's VTube Studio, by the way, for VTubers there. There is stuff that you can do with that. All that. And now, all that will show when we're making a command is everything that's been left unchecked. And it's a nice way to make it nice and tidy. Now, please, hello, listen to me, hi. This software runs on your computer. If you lose all the files, they are gone. That's all of your work, that's all of your hard work, all of your commands gone. No more, they no longer exist. Please go to Advanced and select a backup. Please, I beg. Please, I beg. Minimum weekly, okay? Minimum weekly. If you're going to be doing commands all the time, minimum weekly. If you're going to be using MixItUp in a smaller amount and it's not going to be major commands, you can keep it to be monthly. Believe me, you will be grateful that you put this on. You can also, in doing this, transfer all of your commands from one MixItUp computer to another computer with MixItUp on. Backup settings, and it will back it up to the day that you press this button, and then you get that file, access it from your other computer, and then you can have everything you had when you backed up on a separate computer. This is great when I changed PCs and upgraded, because I didn't need to remake everything. I could just use the backup that I had to transfer it over. This is also if you have just a very basic way of laying out your MixItUp and you want to just share all of your commands and all of your settings, you could also maybe share them this way as well. I've not done that, but it's a possibility. There is a better way though if you want to just share one command here and there. There is a much better way of doing that, and I will show that later. Now, another thing that can contribute to people's overwhelm in MixItUp is this little section here. This little section here is quite a lot. You can edit this as well. So anything that you're not interested here, you can press this little edit and you can turn it off. So channel is where you're gonna edit all of your channel settings, like your title, your game, the things that you would organize on Twitch or your streaming software usually. I turn that off. I turn that off because of course I turn that off. No, thank you. I don't need to see that. And it's just clogging up my stuff. Also, whoops, community commands is there. Right now, community commands is down. They're finding a different way to do it. When it comes back, use it with, you know, just be aware that some of these commands might not be for you, but they might be a good base to work off. But people share their commands onto community commands so that anyone using MixItUp can use them. You won't be using that today, I'm turning it off. Music player, I won't be using today, I'm turning that off. Won't be using that. Stream loots, crowd control is there as an option, by the way. Won't be using it. Stream pass, I won't be talking about because I don't know stream pass and I don't know it very well, and I only want to talk about the things that I'm comfortable with and know thoroughly. But you can basically make like a Fortnite game pass, but for your stream if you want to, with stream pass. So that's an option. What else do we have here? Game queue, I'm going to turn off. Quotes, they have an inbuilt quote system. I haven't used the inbuilt quote system, but we'll go over the commands that are just inbuilt, that are ready to go for you, and I can cover that still. Webhooks, I doubt anyone will be interested in that in their very infancy of learning MixItUp. I will be turning that off. And you can also turn the changelog off if you're not interested in seeing the changelogs. So if I click save, you can see that this is a much smaller. Now, before we go any further, I also want to make sure you set up your services. I'm not going to click these because they have IP addresses on them. But this is where you're going to connect your OBS studio, your overlay. But you can see everything that you can do in MixItUp. You want to be able to connect it this way. So you've got VTube Studio there if you want to use that. There's TreatStream. There is Tiltify here. Just Giving is here. Discord, you can make your own. This is a little bit more advanced, but you can make your own Discord bot, and it's not as daunting as it sounds. There's a lot of documentation for it that it's somewhat simple to follow. Just take it step by step, and you can make your own Discord bot so that MixItUp can post stuff into Discord. Remember, it only works when the bot is open. But it's a really good way to maybe post that you're live. I found that MixItUp was posting it faster than my online bot that I had, so I swapped what was doing that for me. But yeah, there's loads here. Have a look at the services. Make sure you connect what you need to connect. Now, custom bot. If we go back to accounts, you can see that you can connect a bot. It is genuinely just signing into a Twitch account. You can make multiple Twitch accounts with the same email. You just need to go into your security and privacy settings on Twitch and click to enable additional account creation. This means that you can use the same email address for your bot account. Really nice. You don't need to have another email made, which I did because I didn't realize that this is possible. But you don't need to do that. Once you've enabled this, you can make the second account for your bot. If you already have one, you already have one. But if you don't, you can make the second account for your bot and then just log in. And then that's your custom bot done. It's free. It's great. And reminder with the bot, this is where you can set up whether or not the bot reacts to itself here in the settings. Or there is also a really good thing to know here. If you go into the user settings here, so you navigate here to users, and then you can edit users by clicking on this edit button here. This is a really important thing to know depending on how you want to work your currencies. For example, I have a currency that adds 1 every time that someone chats, because at the end of every month we have chatter rewards to celebrate whoever was the chattiest. If I included my bot in this, I think my bot would win every single time. To stop this, specialty excluded. Also, if I mention anything during this stream about the things that I have streamed, if I mention anything during this workshop that is interesting to you and you want to implement, please do. I am so here for sharing ideas and helping other people implement things that they're excited about. If you get excited about anything I talk about, feel free to nick it. Just take it. Just take it and use it. Take it and run. I don't mind. Go do it, you know? But this specialty excluded will mean that this user, whether it's a bot, whether it's yourself, whether it's a specific person, will not gain any currency. It is an all or nothing. So be aware of that, because if you want this user to gain something, but not one thing, that's a lot trickier, and I have struggled with trying to implement that myself. This is an all or nothing. So you've got to decide whether or not you want your bot to collect any of the currencies that you implement in your streams. But that's it for the setup with the custom bot. We've gone over this with the settings that you can have for your bot, and you should be ready to start playing around with commands. So you've looked at your settings, you've played around with the settings that you want to have on or off, all of your defaults, you've played around with them. You've set up your custom bot if you want one, if not it'll post as MixItUp. And you've made your bot be acting however you want it to act. When you first ever click the commands section here, again, it should be something. I believe that this should be in alphabetical order, but that's my own opinion. Can I change the order? You can change the order. Hello, people. You can change the order as well. See, I learn things new every day. So, commands. Always learning about MixItUp. You never cease to learn, okay? So you can change the order. I might make it alphabetical or just have my favorite things on the top. When you first go to the commands tab, it will automatically open on pre-made commands. This is exactly how it will look. I have not changed this from making the profile. These are all of what's available. Now, you might not want all of these, simply switch them off here. That's the easiest way. Have a look at what's available. You can switch them off. You can choose what permissions you want to have. Look. And this works as a hierarchy, just so you're aware. That's a moderator thing, because you don't want random people to be able to add commands. But have a play. If you want to see what it does, you can press this button and it'll test it. It'll just post into the chat what it will do if that command is triggered. You can choose the cooldown for it as well. And this column here, commands, this is the exact thing that needs to follow the exclamation mark. If there are two options here with a space in between, that means you can use either or. But these are all of your usages in this column here. This is just the name of them. These are all of the ways that you use them. And then you've got your permissions here, your cooldown, testing it, and whether or not you want them on or off. Basic commands. Now, we're going to make a couple basic commands together, so I will actually be opening a new command with you, but you just switch between here. So this is your pre-made up in this section here. And then you switch over to custom commands using these tabs. And this is where all of your commands will live. This is where the ones you make will be. I really enjoy the way that MixItUp organizes commands because you can group them. And it's just, I love groups. Groups are great. So we're going to make a new command. This is the window that will open when you decide to make a new command. We're going to talk through everything that you see here so that you're familiar with it all before you start making anything. First, you've got the name. This is just a searchable thing. So this is what you're going to search to find it. I usually match this almost identically to the chat trigger. Very rarely am I going to name it something that isn't the chat trigger, because usually I remember the trigger more than I remember the name. Name your command here. Command group, you'll see I don't have anything there, but if you just type anything, once I save this command, that's going to make a group for me. You don't have to make them beforehand, you make them during the command creation process. User requirements. Now this is going to dictate who and when people can use your commands. We'll go from left to right. I'll go through what each of them are and what they can all mean, please. Oh my gosh, why is this not? There we go. It's fine. It's fine. My UI is working. It's great. What does this do again? I can't remember. Okay, so from my memory, what this will be is simple on this side and advanced on the right. If you have the application open, you will be able to see this better than what I can right now. And then you'll be able to select which streaming platform that is on, so you can make it specific to streaming platforms if you do multi-streams and you only want certain commands to be used in one space rather than another. And then you can choose what the minimum user role is. This works as a hierarchy here. So whichever one you choose, everything below that will be able to use this command as well. So if I chose follower, everything from follower to streamer will be able to use this command, but not users. So it would mean that only followers can use this command. If we switch to advanced, because that is what that says, switch this over to advanced, and again you can choose a streaming platform, but here you can actually select which roles you want. So again, you can add, so I added user because it was already selected and I couldn't see the UI. But you can make it so that only Twitch staff can use a command if you want. This is where you choose which exact roles can use it. This means they have to have this role to use the command. It ignores hierarchy. So it depends on which way you want that to work. But those are just the roles. That's who can use it and what the minimum role requirement or what role requirement they have to use it. Now this is your cooldown. I'm so glad I remember this stuff. So with the cooldowns, we can choose between standard, per person, or group. Standard is every time that command is used. This is going to be the wait in seconds, which you will put here. This will be the wait in seconds until the command can be done again by anyone. Per person is the cooldown, but for that person. This means if 2 people trigger it at the same time, they can, but them same 2 people cannot trigger it until their time is up. Now group is quite fun. So again, you specify the seconds for group, and here you actually create a group similar to how you make the group for the commands. This is completely separate, so you can add any commands to this group cooldown. But if you want a certain amount of commands to not be used within the same time of each other, you can assign them to a group. And then if someone uses, for example, if you have like a > links and an ! YouTube, and you don't want them to both be posted for whatever reason within a minute, you can assign them both to a links group and make a group called links. I have typed, I have typed, and now I might reset my MixItUp to see if it fixes it. But you make a group name there, which will be links. You can't see it. And then however many seconds you want that to be. And then every single command that you have assigned to that group will have to wait that time, regardless of if that specific command has been used or not. So if someone did ! YouTube and you had your cooldown for the group be 60 seconds, people couldn't also use ! links within those 60 seconds. And that's just how the group cooldown works. It is not associated with the groups that you do for the command group. Right, are we ready? Fingers crossed, everyone. Let's hope. Aha! It's there! We can see everyone. Everyone celebrates. Everyone celebrates. Okay, let's go. Currency requirements! So you can add currency. A lot of people have currency. I think the most common currency that people have is something that gradually increases the more time people spend in someone's stream. You can make it so that these commands cost currency. Be aware that every single currency that you include in this will be subtracted from the user, and they have to have that as a minimum. So, couple options here. I don't have any currencies made because this is a new system. 3 options. Required amount, they have to have that exact amount, and that is what is taken from them. Minimum only states a minimum amount that they have to put after the command is used. For example, I have a feed command where they can feed my bot. If I had a minimum of 10, they would have to do ! 10 or higher to feed it, and then it would take away the currency that they have stated. And then there's minimum and maximum that works the same as minimum, but adds a limit to what number they can include in there. And that is currency. Then I'm going to skip over to inventory because this works exactly the same. You select your inventory. It's a different type of currency. We will go over what inventory is later. You choose what item it is and you choose how many, and that is subtracted. Simple. Rank is a different type of currency system, which we will talk about. And again, you can choose rank. Ranks is gained a little bit like experience. You can make it a manual thing, or you can have it just happen in the background, and people can level up into different ranks that you have assigned and you have decided. You can make it so instead of like whether or not they're a subscriber, you can make it so that they're a specific rank to use it, and you can choose whether or not they have to be greater or equal to that rank, exactly that rank with the equals, or less than or equal to that rank. It's up to you how you want to use it, but that is where you assign what ranks people need to have for that command to be used. Now, before I hop on to the next little one, I don't want to lose you with some jargon, so I'm going to introduce you to the jargon first, and then we can move forward. So, arguments, which is going to be something that I talk about a lot. They are just what follows a command after the trigger. So, for example, the example I've given here is !love space cheese and biscuits. !love would be the trigger. Cheese and biscuits is the arguments. Now, there's a lot of arguments that you can use in MixItUp, and you'll see that there's a question mark here. If you click on this question mark, it will actually open up a web page on MixItUp about whatever you've clicked the question mark on. Here, it will take you to the usage requirements section. But if I just bring this over here, here is all of the special identifiers you can use. There's so many of them. I'll introduce you to them later, but down here is arguments. This is what we're talking about here, and there's a few you can use. All args would be cheese and biscuits, the whole thing. That is what all args is. You've got arg1, that would be cheese. Arg1 is cheese, it's the first thing that's said. And you can add the number depending on which word you want to include. Again, once you've got acquainted, have a read through. The wiki is incredible and full of so much gold and information. All you need to know right now, though, is an argument is the text that follows the trigger. And we need to know this because you can make a requirement for an argument. Now, if you wanted someone to have to include a word after a command is said, then you would add a requirement and keep it the optional section unchecked. This would mean that they have to include it. You can have arguments as required. So my thing that I use it for is !hug space username. They can only use this if I have user, well, maybe not user because that's already person. I have called this argument person. It has to be a user. You can also choose number, you can choose decimal, and you can choose text. And it is not optional. Then they have to have said a username following !hug to be able to use this. If they don't do that, it will post as an error message, and you'll see here what the error message looks like. Instead of it saying argument 1 and argument 2, it will give the name that you have assigned it here. So try and make the name that you give these arguments as helpful as possible. If you want it to be optional, you can select it as optional. And then if you want to assign it to a special identifier, which more on special identifiers later, but you can assign it as a special identifier, which means that you can use it within the command that you're making. Last two, required users is a great one if you want a command to only be triggered if multiple people have used it. An example that I have is we play Contexto on stream, and I go and eat. I have a game that when the game is finished, me as a streamer, I have to put a command in chat to enable the game to keep going. What I do instead is I require 3 users within 60 seconds to post the same command into chat, and then I have it so that me, as streamer, sends the command that needs to be sent. There'll be other uses for this, but that is a nice basic example. And then the only difference here is run for each user, and this will decide whether or not when all of the requirements are met, so once all of the right amount of users have done the command, it will decide if it only runs once for everyone or once per person. Now, welcome to the first little bit that I learnt. Whilst doing research for this workshop, I learnt something new. Here in this little settings cog, there's a couple options. One, it's easy to figure out what it is. Delete chat message when run. that will delete the message that includes the trigger command. Again, as I said during the settings, be careful with this. A lot of people have an extension that means that it doesn't delete messages, and it'll just make a bigger wall of chat. But if you don't mind that, feel free to use it as you see fit. Now the other option, which is something I didn't know, is you can show on chat list context menu. Now if you select this, and I'll just move this over here, and you go over to your chat, and if I send a message as a bot, for example, hi, watch one of the people in my chat message me. That happened last time. If you right click on a message, it brings up this window here. If you decide to, in this show on chat list context menu, you can click the command and run it by right clicking on their message. So if someone a really great way of showing this is if you had a shout out command that shouted out the target username, you could make it possible to have it be here. So you can right click on someone's chat message and shout them out. The options for this are huge. I learnt about this recently, I haven't played around with it yet, but just know it's possible. And if you implement this, please let me know how you do, because I'm genuinely curious. I bet there's so many really cool things. There's one that I've actually seen, which is really fun, and instead of shouting out, they have a graphic pop up on stream with the person's message, what they said. So, like when someone pins a funny message in chat, instead of pinning the funny message in chat, they have it become huge on stream and post it. And it's really fun. And you could do that just by right-clicking and having the command there. Options are endless. It's really cool. Play around with it if you can, because I think that's really fun. But I only learnt that recently, so there you go. A little bit of information. A bit more jargon. I've already said this word a few times, but trigger is just what the bot is looking for before it triggers a command, and that is what's going to go here. That is going to be this word here. So it's usually, typically, what follows an exclamation mark. Though I will talk about ways to make it so it doesn't have to follow an exclamation mark. So most commonly with commands following an exclamation mark, so that'll be exclamation mark link, socials, lurk, unlurk, whatever your dreams decide to create. Every command starts this way as default. Auto include exclamation mark means it will work that way. Now in this section, if you, for example, want a links command, but you also want people to use socials or website, because depending on the person, they might have something different that they intuitively decide to use, you can cover all bases. So here, you could say links, you could say socials, you could say website, and you just separate them all with a spacebar. And that means that if someone wants to trigger this command, all they have to do is do exclamation mark, links, or socials, or website. This means that you don't need to make multiple commands that do the same thing. And what I like to do with this is whenever someone comes in and does a command that does nothing, I like to ask them what they were expecting it to do. And then if I have a command that does that, add the word they used to this list. Because then you're just increasing the amount of ways that people can intuitively find information about your streams. And that's going to really help with expanding. You can also have multi-word triggers. So if you want someone to do, so I have my own quote system and I'm going to be using that as an example because it's what I can think of. If you want to have a command that does quote space add, you do quote add, and then you add a semicolon at the end. That means that instead of just exclamation mark quote, this will work if they do exclamation mark quote space add. I did a Secret Santa book club once where we did this, and it was exclamation mark book rec space add, and exclamation mark book rec space what's been, I can't remember exactly what I had, but it's a really good way of having a set layout for commands so that people know what they're doing. They know that if they want a quote, they have to start with exclamation mark quote, space, and then a word. It's nice to know what the format is for these big systems if you are going to build them yourself. Here are some examples on how it would work. So if I had the trigger be 1, 2, 3 as one long word here, I would have to do exclamation mark 1, 2, 3, all one word. 1, 2, 3 with spaces, exclamation mark 1 or exclamation mark 2 or exclamation mark 3 will work. 1, 2, semicolon, 3, semicolon, 1, 2 will work with the space in between, and 3. These are your options. Now, I've already shown that you can do this links, socials, and websites. And again, Linktree, beacons, socials is a great one because those are also ones that people use. And then the multi-word trigger here, I've also got the quote section here. So you can see quote add, write it with a semicolon, quote random, write it with a semicolon, quote remove, write it with a semicolon. Again, this is only if you don't want to use an inbuilt system, which does exist. This is just an example of how you could make a format that people can easily remember and follow. Because there's nothing worse than, I can't remember which way to write this word. I can't remember whether I have this because I didn't set it up with a function, with a format for it. I have people going, I don't know if I need to add quote or quote add. I don't know if I need to quote random or random quote. Whereas here, every single quote command would start with quote and then a space. And then you know that is how it works. It makes it a lot more intuitive. Now here are these check boxes, and we're nearly done with getting ourselves familiar with all of the commands. Now we've already covered auto-include, which means an exclamation mark will start at the beginning. But here is a wildcards section. This allows the bot to be triggered if there is something just in the middle of a sentence. If someone's written something, and in the middle of it, they say a word that you think is funny and you want to have the bot react to it, you can do that. This is also how you can have it so that if someone does an emote, it will respond to the emotes. I have it. I have one. Anyone watch Star Wars? Anyone like Star Wars? I have one. If anyone says hello there in chat, it responds General Kenobi. I love it. And then I also have one where if they just say hi chat, hello chat, if they say hi to the bot, all of them options, again with semicolons separated, the bot will then respond and say hi and welcome them in. Loads of fun ways you can do wildcards. Now you can have it as both. When you switch to wildcards, it'll automatically turn this off, but you can also turn it back on again if you want. So it can be used as both a command and a wildcard. And then finally, unlock command. Now this is a really good way if you have a command that has a weight in it and you do not select this, all of your commands are going to be on pause for it. All of your commands. So I had a redeem that would make me wear a hat and I would have it give me 5 minutes and then it would tell me in chat when I could take the hat off. I didn't unlock that command. So people were trying to do commands and thinking they weren't working because all of the commands that were being done whilst that wait was happening were waiting for it to then post, hey, you can take your hat off. Unlock the commands that have weights in them if you want other commands to happen at the same time. A little bit more jargon. Action. That is just the little puzzle pieces. It's the executable. It's the puzzle pieces that we're going to be adding to your command. It's what is going to happen when the command is done. This is your chat message. This is your overlays. This is your sound bites. All of this that you see here, these are all actions. Looking at this bottom bit here, we've got the action drop down. So I'm going to add a message here by selecting message and clicking plus. We're going to make a command using this in a second. Go over a little bit and you've got your save icon. I think they're working on it, but as soon as you click save, it will close this window. You can't save and keep going and keep the window open. If you click save, it's going to close the window. It is a little bit frustrating. You'll get used to it. However, if you want to test it, you can test it without saving. So if you press this play button here, it will test it in its current state with or without saving. And then here are some ones that I really like doing. Export actions to file and import actions to file. You can export once you've named everything, and you can save this as a file in your computer. And then when you are making another command, you can import an exact replica. This is a really good way of making a foundation that is editable, which will really help with alerts later, especially since the organizing of the overlays is a little bit annoying. It's a little bit annoying because you can't see them, but if they look the same with just a different words that are said with a different piece of art and a different sound, and all you need to do is change that, but you want the positions to be exactly the same, you'll probably want to use these later. It's a nice way of doing copy and paste. We're going to make a command. This is going to be our little pause moment. So if any of you have any questions, you can ask them. I'm going to quickly make a socials command just so I can talk you through what it'll do, and we can press play and we can see what happens. But if you have any questions, you can. So this, I'm just going to make socials, if I can spell socials correctly. And I'm going to make a command called a command group called links. Then I'm going to have links. Also, a fun way of using the alternative chat triggers is if people often misspell it, then you can have the misspellings. And then if people spell it wrong, it still works. So links, socials, website. And then if I just had it do this. It's riveting. It's riveting. It's so, people are going to love this. And then you save it. Oh, because I had a, don't forget to delete these. If you've been playing around with them, don't forget to delete them. There we go. I think that's good. Save. Yes. And then if we go to commands, it's there. Once you add another placeholder, blah. Cool. Yep. Save. There we go. And then it starts to group them. And then you can see them in the groups. You can turn groups on and off all together as well, which is great. Look, I'm if you don't like my vibe of streams, I'm not going to expect you to stick around. But if you want to see all of this moving and in action, you can pop in and just perceive the chaos. You don't have to follow. Don't follow me if you're not interested. I will not take it personally. It's fine. But have a look. You can have a look. Take inspiration, please. I beg. I love interactive streams. I love being able to go into a stream and doing stupid shit. I'm gonna swear. Stupid shit. I can't stop myself. Okay. I love doing all of the stupid things and pushing the bot as far as I can get it to go. You know. It's great. Start simple, but know what the possibilities. Yes, start simple. I will show you later when we get to the conditionals. I'm going to start with a simple command and I'm going to make it more and more complex so that you can see how you can build on something and make it bigger. And also you can start small. Don't worry about thinking, oh, I want this, but I would love it to do this when I learn how to. Just have the little thing first. Have the little thing first, and then you can slowly add to it as you go on. I have a huge desire to understand all this. I have so much chaos I want to do. I will enable this chaos. But remember, conditionals are not self-care. So just be aware. If you are like me with ADHD and you might forget about it, write it down in a journal, because otherwise it will eat away at you. Write it down in a journal. Have a little ideas list. There's actually a really fun game that someone's making where you can have little critters of ideas that just walk around on a screen. It's very simple, but it's a cute way of visualizing your ideas. Write it on a strip of paper, put it in a jar, and then every month just pick one. I love that. That is so cute. When you get into the complicated stuff, I highly recommend writing out the processes. Planning on paper. Highly recommend it. It helps get all the thoughts out. It helps figure out how it's going to work, get the order down as well. It's wonderful. So, a little bit of jargon. This is where I'm going to introduce you to overlays. I know the overlays are a really overwhelming thing for people in MixItUp because you don't have a visual for it. I'll discuss how you can go about this and make it a little bit easier for you, but a little bit of jargon is overlay endpoint. This is where all of your visual overlays will end. So this will be a link, and you can find this here. If you make multiple, you might make multiple. You can add more. If you only want one, it'll just be this one. You copy this link and you paste it into your OBS. I will go through how later, but this will be your overlay endpoint. This is what you have in your streaming software. So you can rename them if you want. You can open it in a browser. Opening it in a browser is a really great way to troubleshoot, which I will cover later. In your streaming software, all you want to do is you want to add a browser source. You want to make sure that is 1080 high by 1920 wide. And then, if you remember the setting earlier, in the settings where you can make the audio go through overlay endpoints, there you can select an option to make it so that you control the audio via OBS, if it's OBS, for example. Overlays can be done anywhere that an action can be added. I'll use my blech. So, here in the actions, you will see that there is an overlay section here. There are a lot of options. Here they are. There's a lot of them. So you've got text, image, video. These are going to be ones that I imagine most people will be using for their overlays. Then you've got YouTube. HTML, if you can code, you can put it in here. Have fun. That's not for me. That's not for me. Have fun. Enjoy. Timer, Twitch clip, emote effect, enabling or disabling widgets, which we'll get to later, stream bosses, which is a game that you can have in this. You can add to goal, add to persistent timer, pause and unpause the timer, add to end credits, play end credits, add to event list, spin wheel, run widget function. Loads here, loads. I encourage you to just look through and see what you want to do. We, right now, for alerts, will be only looking at text, image, and video in terms of the overlays, and then also we'll be adding sound, but that's its own action. Testing your overlay works. Before we do anything, if you have not tested it yet, I highly recommend testing it. You want to go here, change this to an image, choose, one second, I have a folder that I made for this that will mean that I don't have to move this off screen. Workshop, here. Wonderful. Cool. Choose an image, open it. Select a duration. Make sure it's going to the correct overlay endpoint. If you have multiple overlays, this is important. There have been many times I have cried over something not working. I just had the wrong overlay endpoint chosen. Choose an overlay endpoint, specify a time, specify width and pixels, and then all you want to do here is press play. Press test command. If you have connected everything correctly, it should show up in OBS. If you haven't connected it into OBS correctly, but it's working, you'll be able to see it in the web browser that it opens if you select to open it in web browser, because you can just open these overlays in a browser source. If it doesn't show in the browser, there's something wrong with your command itself. If it doesn't show in OBS, you've put it in OBS wrong. And you should have a working overlay after you've troubleshooted that. If you have more problems past that, I highly recommend joining the MixItUp Discord. It helped me so much in learning everything I know. And there's a huge community there who will be happy to help, as well as some devs and some ambassadors there as well. That'll be your port of call if it doesn't work still. But those are my go-to troubleshootings. So we're going to make some alerts. We're going to make your first alert. If you've not ever made alerts in commands, we're going to make alerts. So the downside with alerts in MixItUp is there is no visual representation. So if you've used Stream Elements and you're used to things like that, you can just drag it. You can drag it whenever you want, and you can, yes, I want it exactly there, wonderful. MixItUp is like hell. It's so fun, it's so great, it's so wonderful. So, events is where you're gonna have your alerts. And we're just gonna make a follow one. So you're gonna drop down your Twitch channel followed, add command. This is where you're gonna make your alerts. There are ways around not having the visual representation. For example, later I'm going to be talking about overlay endpoints. They are persistent. You don't have to trigger them to see them, and that can be a nice way to just place it where you want and then copy all of the information over into your alert if you want. If you don't have any wild animations for entering and leaving the screen, you could even use a photo editing software. Get the dimensions of your stream, whatever you use, so if it's 1080, and place the image exactly where you want it to be. You'll still have to place a text on it, etc., but you can make a 1080 with everything transparent except from exactly where you want the overlay to be, and then it will pop up exactly where you want it to be without having to play around with it in OBS. Now, if you have alerts that follow the exact same formatting, so it's a picture with text over the top of it, across the middle, and it does a sound, then you can export this and then import it into all of your other commands. And then all you have to know, it's positioned correctly. You just need to change the image, you just need to change what the text says, and you just need to change the sound. It's already in the right place. Export is going to save you a lot of time here. So, there is also, just before I go too far, I haven't played around with it because I didn't know about it until I already made everything that I have in my alerts, but there is a Twitch bits tab. In here, you can make specific things happen depending on if it is an exact amount of bits or between a range. I haven't tested this, and I don't know whether or not if there is a specific number within a range, if they overlap. I haven't tested it, so I don't know. But I recommend playing around with these things. If you don't know something in MixItUp and you want to use it, have a little play. Have a little mess around. You will get 2 sounds, thank you for letting me know. Don't worry, I'll teach you conditional so you don't have overlapping sounds. So if you want to have just a load of different sources, I'm guessing is what you mean, sources in OBS, you can use MixItUp to control whether or not those sources are visible. But you do need to connect to OBS to be able to do that. We will be building our alerts in the events, and I will be teaching you conditionals later, so you'll be able to make there be different sounds for bits if you want there to be different sounds depending on how many bits are cheered. So, add a command to channel followed. This will look very familiar if you've already opened the command section in MixItUp. You have the same bar at the bottom here, and you can unlock the command here. As events work, one event has to finish before another event happens. If you want an event to happen simultaneously to another, you can unlock it. If you have a load of sounds and visuals going off, I probably wouldn't recommend that. It might get a little overstimulating for everyone involved. But if there is a reason you want to unlock the command, for example, I have a raid command that also sends messages in chat over like a 5-minute span, just to like, I don't think it's 5 minutes, it's like a minute or 2. But it tells people information, it lets people know if they need to raid and run or look after themselves, they can. I have that unlocked so that the raid message will go off, and whilst all of the waiting is happening, if anyone follows, that alert will happen as well. Generally though, you probably don't want to unlock the alerts. It'll be a bit. So to make an alert, we're gonna add a chat message. We're gonna add a sound, which I definitely don't have ready, but that's okay because I don't actually need to play it. And we're gonna add 2 overlays. And this will be the base of a simple follow alert. Little bit more jargon. This is where I'm going to introduce special identifiers to you. They are codes with pre-assigned information with them. So $sign is the start of all special identifiers, followed by username will post the person's username. $sign target username, if a username has been added in the message, then it will change that to that person's username. There are so many special identifiers. I cannot stress. I don't think I know them all. This is a list. If you click a question mark on special identifiers and conditionals, it will bring this up. There's stuff to do with dates and times. There's top for certain currencies. You've got stuff to do with users, user hours, user minutes, user account days. There's so much of whether or not they're subscribed. Target users, stuff about the streamer, your arguments, which we talked about earlier. There's random special identifiers, so you can randomly generate numbers. Information about your stream, which I'll have some really fun information about that later. Uptime, stuff to do with YouTube, stuff to do with Twitch, donations, loads. And then in events, you want to go to event commands because they have their own special identifiers as well. So if we go down to the Twitch section here, you've got special identifiers for, you've got user sub streak, continuous number of months that user has subscribed for, user sub plan, if you want to say what type of tier they're on, gift subs, how many subs. You'll find anything, any information you want to do with events will be in this section here. Again, that is all on the website. So, we're going to make the follow. If you want to follow along, you can. I'm going to do such a boring alert, okay? It's not going to be anything exciting. It is just going to say the very bare minimum just so I can show you exactly what happens. So, chat message. Thank you. If you want it to tag them. Put it before the $sign, otherwise it won't work. But if you want to tag them, you can @ them. $sign, username. That will change to be the person who followed. So it will fill it out. Thank you. Thank you, username, for the follow. Sound file. Pretend there's a sound there. You can browse and you can select it. Make it first, make it good later. Overlays. Images and GIFs is under images. So if you have a GIF or an image that you want to post, you want to choose image. If you have a video, you choose video. Video does have the option to loop as well if you want that. I'm going to choose image just because I have one readily available. Browse, select. Thank you for going over my second screen. I appreciate it. And then you choose the width and height. And then we go over here. This is where you choose where it goes on your screen. This is where it gets a little bit complicated. If you really aren't bothered exactly where it goes, if you don't have any specific exact pixel that you want this to show up on, simple will go in the thirds or in the center. So if this doesn't go right in the corner, it goes like, if you did the thirds here, so if you did like that as a grid, it will show up here, 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 or here. That is how simple works. Percentage is what percentage of the distance of a screen is. Pixel is where you can go real close and exact with where it goes. And then random, you can choose a range and you can have it just randomly show up anywhere if you want it to. Be aware that if you switch these, it won't keep the value. So if you like are going, oh, I'll just get the basic area with percentage and then I'll switch to pixel to fine tune it, it doesn't work that way. Choose which way you want to do it first and then choose a position. And then animation here, Sorry for tapping the mic there. Animation here is where you can choose if it like bounces in, if it fades in, if it flashes. You can also, if you want it to come in and then like bounce a little bit before going out, you can add an animation. Choose when you want it to trigger, so you can have it wait a second, and then you can choose it to like bounce if you want. And then that will bounce before it exits. So it'll come in, it'll bounce, and then it'll leave. And that's if you want to add any other animations into it. We do love that there are inbuilt animations. And that is it for the image section. Again, just specify how long you want it to be, specify how big you want. If you don't specify here, it will just automatically choose whatever the width and height is of the original file. I always just fill out width, because as long as you don't do both, it will keep its ratio. If you want to stretch it, you can do both, and you can make it will squash and stretch the image if you don't apply the same ratio with the size. But you can just fill out one or the other if you would rather. And then text. And again, you can choose font size. There are so many fonts to choose between. Have fun searching them all. Again, you've got to select it and just see. You've got to select it and see what it is on the overlay. This is why I recommend doing this in overlay widgets first, so that you have a constant that's there for you to play around with, and then copy and paste it into the events. So text, we'll have username followed, and that will say username followed dead center. I'll change this to be dead center again. Not that you'll be able to see it because I don't have my OBS open for you, but this will post the image that I chose in the center with the text that says username followed. Again, you can add animations to this if you want, and you can change the position if you want. Username followed after playing a sound, and it also says thank you for the follow. Once you've built this, everything is exactly where you want it to be. It is in the right position for you. Click this little button here. I forgot to do a duration. Look, this is the good thing about MixItUp is it tells you if you've missed things. There we go. I'm going to save this called alert base. I'm now just going to delete these. I'm going to import alert base. It fills it exactly how it was, including position. It will include position here. So make your first alert. If you want all of your alerts to have the exact same positioning, export it. You can import it in your others. So we'll save this follow one, and then rated, import, alert base. And then all I have to do here is I go here, I say thank you username for the raid. Change the sound to be the raid sound that I want. Change the image to be the raid image that I want. Change this text to say username raided. And then that will look the exact same place, the exact same positioning, the exact same animations, but you've now edited it for raid. It's a much better way to copy and paste. It's still not as good as a visual representation, which I have heard that they are working on, but that may take a little while. So in the meantime, this is a good way to go about it. Also, little reminder, just as you start making these commands, get used to naming them. So here, I can call this one image, and this one text. And then if I decide I want to change the image for this, this is not the best example because it's a smaller command. You may not think it's as important. But imagine you have this many. Imagine you have about 10, 20 actions, and you want to edit one little part of it. I just wanna change the image. I just want to change the image of my alert. Great. There's the image. Wonderful. I love that so much. Thank you so much. Now I can change it. Because I named the actions. Name them. Later, when we get into conditionals, you may start creating your own special identifiers using the file read or just by making a special identifier. It is so helpful to include whatever you have stated in the title, because then you don't need to keep that action open. You can just look back at the title and you know which special identifier it is. You don't need to keep it open. You can close it up. You don't need to remember how to spell it. You can just read it whilst it's condensed. It's real nice. It's a real nice touch. I want to give you a little drop of information that might save your life and change your life for the future. If you don't know about it, that is super nice and helpful. There is an event here called Twitch channel outgoing raid completed. This is triggered when you have raided out. When your raid completes and all of your community have gone elsewhere, add a command here, please. I really go to your streaming software, action, start stop stream. You will never forget to turn your stream off ever again. You'll never be just watching the streamer that you raided eating food in front of a camera and then just see in the corner of your eye someone message in your chat saying, "You're still live." That has happened to me before. It's not fun. Use MixItUp to prevent this from happening. There's so many other automations you can do, but this one is one of the simplest automations that will change a lot for you. Start stop stream on Twitch channel outgoing raid completed. It is so good. Oh, another thing before I move too far away from overlays, another thing to be aware of, if you have multiple that go on at the same time, there is a layer position. And this dictates what layer it is. So if you want something to for sure be behind the other, you can do this. And this will sustain for every single overlay that you add to an endpoint. So if you want your alert to be on top of everything, just make this 100. I doubt you're gonna have 100 things. But yes, if you want your overlays to be in the correct layer order, this is where you do it. 0 is further behind, 100 is further in front. And that is how you'll get your layers to work. You also do a simple shout out for who's raided. Yes, so on the raid one, you can either do it as a chat message, for anyone who doesn't know. You can either do it as a chat message, and you can have, if I go to the special identifiers website, because I'm not going to remember everything. Don't feel like you have to remember all of the special identifiers. There is a special identifier for the user link. Oh, here we go. User URL. So you can do user URL, and that will post their Twitch link. Or send shout out, username, for when someone raids. And that will allow it to automatically shout them out. So the next few bits is going to take a lot less time. I really wanted to make sure you all understood how the commands can be built within just the commands. I really wanted to make sure you understood the actions, but the rest of this should go relatively quickly because there's not too much to cover. You have passed, I think, probably the heaviest bit. Maybe not the most complicated bit, but I think the heaviest bit. Timers. Timers are great. A lot of people use timers just for chat functions. However, you can use it for so many other things as well. There's so many other things. Overlays is heaviest. There's a lot to do with overlays. And here we are with the timers. So they are basically just commands that happen on a schedule. When you make a new command, you make a new group. So if I just say here, my basic one is this, and I make the group, maybe I want this to send every 15 minutes, and I want it to say, hey, please follow my stream every 15 minutes. Good to know. These groups will all be sent at the same time in this interval. So if you have set up timers and you want your timers to all happen at different time, you probably want to make different groups that are based on whatever the time interval is for them, rather than having them based on what they do. Otherwise, you might have them double. You might have it post. So say if I wanted this one here, links, follow me. Cool. Save that. New command. In basic. Also, you'll notice that the command groups for your commands will also show up here. You can use them, you don't have to. I like to, because otherwise I get too many groups. But, let me add a chat message here that says, follow me. And then just because I want to have another group so that you can see it a little better, I'm just going to fill this out just randomly and save it. So, this basic group here, the group interval is 15 minutes. Both of these commands will trigger at the same time every 15 minutes. There's a few options. If you don't want these to post at the same time, put them into separate groups and name the groups based on how much time has passed. Because it's worth noting that if I change this to 20 here and save, and I go to this one, it now also says 20. It stays within the group. So, you can make groups based on the interval, or there is a random action here. You can choose how many of the commands within this random will trigger, and we only want one message. And then you can add a chat message here. Follow me. Another chat message here. Links. Etc, etc. And then every time this goes off, it will randomly choose this one or this one. Now, if you have a load of different options, it can mean that something you want to get seen doesn't get seen for however long. It depends on how you want to build these timers. Also worth noting with random up here, there's no duplicates, which means that... Okay, I got this a little wrong on the day, so we're going to go over this again, and I'm going to fix what I said wrong. No duplicates on its own is associated with the amount. If this was 2, it would post 2 things. Selecting no duplicates would make that these 2 things aren't the same. Persist no duplicates, however, will make sure that no subaction is repeated until every subaction has been posted. Is there anything that I've missed to do with the timers yet? They're great for automatic calls to actions. You don't have to have it as just a chat message. You can have... if you want, I can show you mine in a second. You can have overlays, so you can have every now and again a picture shows up. So, say every hour you want there to be an alert happen on stream to tell everyone that they need to stand up and stretch their legs. You can have a picture show up on stream saying that everyone needs to stand up and stretch their legs. There's plenty you can do with timers. Play around. Anything that you can do in a command, you can do in a timer. This also, a really good thing that you can do, if you make a command that adds your links, instead of making it so that you have to type everything out again, there is a make an action here called command. You can run command, chat command, socials. Every 20 minutes, it will post whatever you've said socials to do. So then say you've got an event that you're doing where you need a call to action to happen every few minutes, but you want people to be able to get links. Say it's a charity event. You can make the command as a text command for the charity and all of the information for it. And then you can have the timer just run that chat command so that you don't need to write it all again. And again, you can use the random feature so that it goes randomly through it. Overlay widgets. This is what I was on about in terms of being able to have a persistent overlay. This is where if you want to place your alerts to get the placement first without having to like trigger it to be able to see it every time and then copy all of that information over, you can do that. There's loads more in here though. You can really play around. There's loads of options. So you can have your chat on stream if you want. You can make a custom overlay. Hello coders, have fun. End credits, event list, game queue, goal, HTML, again, hello coders, image, label, leaderboard. If you have like a layout for your stream where you have maybe a little border that you like and you don't want it to take up processing power on your computer, you can just have that little border be a static overlay through the overlay widgets, and then it will just, and then again, you can make that be like layer 100 for the layer position so that it's always on top. But there's loads here that you can play with. Again, there's a wheel spin here. You got your stream boss. Have a look, play around. When looking at these, if I just quickly get an image, you'll see here display option, overlay endpoint, or single widget URL. You can just have this overlay be its own separate link if you want it to be. A really fun use that I've used for this, I have a goal. So if I just get to the goal here, I have a goal, which they have, by the way, just recently introduced color pickers. Enjoy that. I had to not do it on the app for so long. You are so spoiled joining MixItUp now with all of the quality of life things that they have implemented. But you can change this to single widget overlay for the goal. And if you want to change the shape of it, rather than it just being a square or a rectangle, add this as a single widget URL into your streaming software. And if you have the possibility, you can do an alpha mask, which will you can change the shape of the goal. I use this so that I have little potion bottles. I wonder if I can show you. I do have it open. I will make my tiny little bottles. I'll show them here. So, Streamception. Can you see here? Those are my goals. So I have alpha locked them to be little potion bottles instead of them being a rectangle. So that can be a benefit of having the single widget URL. There's also the benefit of you can do single widget URL to be able to just place it where you want on your stream. So you can make it be an overlay widget and then you can move it around in OBS to where you want it. Be aware, there's pros and cons. The pros of having it all in one overlay instead of single widget URLs is that it'll be less demanding on your computer in OBS. The pros of having it be a single widget URL is you can place it visually wherever you want with freedom. There's a trade-off. Choose whichever feels best for you. Games. Now, this is kind of the start of making this interactive. You'll see I don't have any currencies, so it's saying no currencies detective. Some games require a currency. We'll cover currencies in a second, but you will probably need currencies to run games. And there's a load of pre-made games that you can have. So They'll work out the box. You don't need to change them at all. There's a load. You can do a coin pusher. There's a duel where 2 people can fight. You've got a lockbox, which is like a code decipher game. A word scramble, which is similar to the code one, but you've got to figure out a 4-letter word instead of a 4-digit code. They'll just work out the box. You can add them and they'll work and they'll do their thing. Or you can edit them. So for me, someone once said in chat that they didn't feel comfortable with hug commands because just for them it didn't feel right. They don't like them and they're forced into them because someone can just do !hug and it'll trigger. I was like, okay, how can I make it so that someone can not accept a hug or accept a hug if they want it? So, duels. You may think that you have to fight. No, I'm a little bit not a fighter, or other cringy things to say. You can change a lot to do with games. So when you've finished with this, have a look through all of the games and see if there's anything that works kind of similar to what you're wanting that you can change the words of a little bit. So instead of duel, I'm going to have hug be the command. So this is going to say hug instead. Now you have a time limit. It's targeted. I don't want it to be random. I want it to be targeted. When it started, instead of it saying username has challenged target username to a duel, has opened their arms to username for a hug. ! Hug to accept. If it is not accepted, target username isn't feeling like a hug today. Right? Use a chance. If someone accepts it, I want this to 100% work. This hug will happen if someone accepts it. On a win, username and target username join for a hug. Lose doesn't happen because it's 100% going to win. But you can also just copy this so that just in case the coding doesn't work, it posts the same thing regardless. And then that is a reskinned duel to instead be a hug that has consent. And again, if you want to implement this if you want to. Have a look at the games. Have a look at how they're laid out. See if you could maybe make it a little bit different that works for you. For example, there's a volcano one in here, which the way this works is users can deposit currency into a stash into the volcano. And then there's a random chance after it hits a certain amount that it will explode and people will get currency. I have reskinned this to be a feed command. So people can !feed my bot. Low level, he'll nibble. No, low level, he'll scoff. Middle level, he'll eat. High level, he'll nibble. And then if he explodes, he burps and the trees around shed leaves and you can catch them from the air. Again, change how it is. Feels completely different. Have fun playing around with the games and making them to your liking. You can edit these. And also look at how much you can edit what the percentage chances for things and what the requirements are for things. You can make it so that only a certain amount of people can use these commands. Remember the basics. Apply them wherever you see them. Now, currencies. This is what most of you are probably going to want to set up so that you can use the games, so you can set requirements for certain commands. There's 3 different types of currencies. You've got currency, you've got rank, and you've got inventory. Currency is going to be like money that you accumulate and can spend. Rank acts like a role that you can gain experience towards and then level up. Inventory will act like a collection. So if you want people to collect from a certain category of things, so like I have badges, people can collect badges for subscribing, for sharing bits, for petting my bot. They can get a badge if they get 100% angel or devil. You can collect badges by interacting with Stream. It's a great way to get people to interact with Stream. Inventory is like your collection. Start with currency, so you can see there's two buttons at the bottom here. You've got add currency and rank, and you've got add inventory. Add currency first. You'll see here there's a check on primary. If you select a currency as your primary currency, it will automatically decide that that is a currency that is spent in games, in what else does it automatically? Anything to do with trading. If it needs to automatically populate a currency, for example, with the games, it will choose your primary one first. You can give it a name. You can choose how fast they are acquired. So you have a few options here. You can have 1 per minute, 1 per hour, 1 per bit. You can make it custom, or you can disable it if you want to manually give it out. So, for example, I have leaves, which are accumulated by spending time in the stream. And I have cookies, which are gained by doing things. You don't gain them by watching, you gain them by interacting. If you want it to be something that they have to interact for, disable it. You can have role bonuses, so if anyone is a regular, a subscriber, or a moderator, you can give them more. This is a multiplier for these. And you can have event bonuses, so if someone follows, you can give them a lump sum of like 300 leaves, for example, with my leaf system. If someone hosts you, you can give them leaves, or if someone subscribes, you can as well. And then at the bottom here, you can select a minimum channel activity. So if you want people to not claim these in the first like 10 minutes that they watch, you can state that for the first 10 minutes they won't accumulate these at all. And then you can have an automatic reset as well. So if you want this to reset yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, you can choose that. You select, say monthly, and then you choose the first here. And then this will reset on the first of every month. Switching to a rank system, you'll see a lot of this stays the same, except we get this extra little section here. This is where you add your tiers. Be aware, I played with this more recently and learned it a little bit more recently. You can't edit these. So if I say level 1 is 10 points, so it takes them, in this case, it'll take them 10 minutes to get to level 1. If I say level 2, it's 200. So it would take them 200 minutes to get to level 2. I can't edit these. Make sure you're sure what you want these to be before you make them. I recently wanted to change mine and couldn't. So it's going to be a whole thing getting that changed. Otherwise, it works the exact same. You've got your minimum activity. You've got your automatic reset. You've got your regular bonuses, your event bonuses, what rate they get them in. And again, if it's primary or not. The only difference is this. You also see here, on user rank up, you can make it so it posts in chat something that happens when people rank up. So if you want it to say, at username leveled up, it can tell them when they leveled up. You can also make it so that commands subtract rank. And you can have it so that if user ranks down, it'll tell them that they ranks down. And that is the ranks. So if you disable this, then it will not accumulate automatically. You can have both if you want both, but it will not accumulate automatically if you disable it. And then what you want to do is, if you want it to manually be added to, in a command, you will add the action consumable. You will select your consumable, add to user, or any of these options. There are quite a few options here. You've got add to user, subtract, add to specific user. So that would be if you wanted to add to target username. Add to all chat users, subtract from a specific user, reset for all, reset for user, loads. And then you can choose how many is added, subtracted, or other. That is how you would make it be manually acquired. Now, if we go to inventory, This is a great way. Inventory massively shifted my stream for me. When I started adding inventory, that is when I started getting a lot more interactiveness, if that's a word, probably not, because people like collecting things. People love to collect things. So you can have, like what I have, badges that reward when you do something. I have a friend who has like a stamp book instead of badges. So you will have one big inventory that people can add to. You can set a default max amount. So if you want all of these to only, for my badges, I only want people to have one, ever. So I have a default max amount as 1. Whereas if you want multiple things to be collected, for example, my bakery section where people can collect flour, sugar, and butter so that they can make cookies, I don't have a max. I have the max set to like 9999999 because I don't want them to hit a roof with it. I just want them to collect as many as possible. You can set a default max amount. You can then overwrite that default max amount when you're adding an item. So here you add item 1. If you leave it as 0, it will apply the default. If I add it to 5, it will choose 5. You'll notice a buy price and a sell price. I'll talk about that in a second. Add item. It adds here. Unlike rank, this is editable. Click on it. How am I editing this? There we go. Edit brings it down here. You edit the information you want and you update it. Down here, the wonderful benefit with the inventory is you can have shops and you can have trades. Shop means that they can buy and sell the collectibles that they have. So if you want it to be possible for them to spend whatever currency they're accumulating to buy more of the thing that they want, you can have it so that's possible. Or if you want it so that they have like 50 of one thing and they don't want them all, you can have it so that they can sell a load of them to gain that currency back. And you can have trades. So if you want your community members to trade the items that they have between each other, so if I have a lot of systems. This is why I decided to do this, because I have a lot going on. I have a teacup system because I have a daily tea, and when they redeem daily tea, a little teacup pops up at the bottom of the screen. This teacup looks different depending on the user if they decide to change it. Every time they chat, they have a random chance to get a teacup. There's also a teacup gacha in my redeems as well, so once an hour they can redeem a teacup gacha and have a greater chance of getting a teacup. And they can customize the little teacup that pops up. They trade these because some people have like 5 of a rare one and other people have 10 of one that that person doesn't have, so they can trade them. And they can grow their collections by swapping what they want and don't want. These are your options with the inventory. There's loads you can do. It's quite a lot of fun. With the shop and the trade, I highly recommend testing it before you run it, because the commands can be a little bit confusing. I personally took a screenshot of me and one other person doing the test run of a trade so that people can just look at the image and follow the exact train of commands that they can see in the screenshot. Know it well enough to be able to help people with it, because otherwise it won't get used. Make sure you know the commands that you're implementing. Extra, on top of that, I'm just going to add my leaves, because why not leaves? Primary, 1 per minute, I'm happy. When you create these for the first time, this little prompt box will come up. And it asks you if you want to add these commands. It'll ask you if you want to add !leaves, which will show user's amount. You've got 1 add leaves to add amount to specific user. Add all leaves adds amount to all chat, and give leaves gives an amount. So it's a you can have some of mine, rather than just adding from thin air. If you tick yes, first off, you'll see that here it gives you your special identifiers for this specific currency. You will want this later for conditionals, and also if you're wanting to add the information within a command that you want to make yourself. If we go to commands, you'll say we have a new ungrouped section here. These are all the ones that got added. Add all leaves and add leaves automatically are moderator ones. And if we go into edit here, you get to see how the command is built. So you see that leaves, add to all chat users, arg1 text. And that will read the first bit of information that follows the command and add that amount to all of the chat members. And then it will say everyone got arg1 text, leaves. And that again will copy the first bit of information that follows the command trigger. Or to include this, you'll see we're using the semicolon here to have multiple words. If I have a look here, this one will be a little bit different. This is add leaves, add to specific user, arg2 text this time because arg1 will be the username and arg2 will be the amount of leaves. And it will add to target username, must be present, and it will add to specific user and then send a message. You don't have to keep these the same. I recommend adding these if you're new to the bot and figuring things out and want to have this information available to people. Have fun playing around with it. You can make it be different. I have so with my cookies, if I want to add one cookie to everyone, I have a command called traybake. So instead of it saying add cookies, it says traybake, and traybake is what adds to a load of people. You can also, with the currencies, you'll see top 10 leaves here. 10 is a number that can be changed, and you can use this special identifier to make leaderboards. So if we remember top 10 leaves here, commands, new command, I'm going to make a group here called leaves. And I'm going to call this treetop because that's what I call it in mine. But I'm also, because some people might not think treetop will work, I'm also going to add top leaves as an option. Chat message. Our top leaf havers, top 10 leaves. This will post the top 10 users who have that currency, and it'll show how much of that currency they all have. Then you can change this. If you don't want it to be 10, you can change it to whatever number you want. If you want it to be 3, you can have it to be 3. If you want it to be 20, have fun with the amount of chat messages I'll send, but you can do it. You can do it if you want to. This is how you make leaderboards, basically, that are easy to see with other people. And I'll just save that. And you see I've got a leaves section now, and I can go through and I can choose this drop down, select leaves, save, and it'll move into that group. And it'll tidy itself nice and easy. And again, keeping things tidy, making things easy for yourself in the future. Stick with it. You'll appreciate it later. Counters. My beloved. I love counters so much. There's a couple ways you can add counters, but they're a great way of just tracking anything numerical. A lot of people use counters for things like a death counter in games. If someone dies, !death, +1 to death counter. And you can also show counters on overlays. So if you have an overlay widget that is a text overlay widget, you can use a special identifier for the counter to show that number on stream. You can use the special identifiers, any of them anywhere, in overlays as well. So keep that in mind, especially when we get to global special identifiers, which I will touch on later. You can add counters multiple ways. You can go into your settings, and there's a section for counters, and you can add them here. Counter 1. I'll even, just to be safe, I'm going to do that. Counter 1. And I've added that counter here. Or, in a command, select counter, and you can create it there. When you press save, it'll make it. So you don't have to go into the settings to make it, you can just type it in. The special identifier for counters is just this with a $sign in front of it. They're the easiest special identifier to remember. You just need a little $sign in front of the name of a counter and it will add it. Good thing when you start making a lot of special identifiers, a good thing to know is special identifiers will complete to the quickest possible code. So if you have, for example, counter 1 and counter 2 here, but I also have a counter called counter, and I use a special identifier, counter 1, it will post the number that the counter is, and then the word 1 after, rather than the whole of counter 1. So be careful when naming your special identifiers. I had like a STR for strength for a D&D thing that I made, and then I had a counter called strange something or other, and it wasn't completing the strange because it was doing the number for strength instead. Be aware of this when making the names for your special identifiers. Commands can do a few things with counters as well. You can update them, which just means adding however much you state, resetting them to set them back to 0, or set them if you want to set them to a specific number. So if you wanted like a command that fixed, if you forgot to do the last 3 of the counters and you wanted to just fix it to automatically have all 3, you can do !fix and then the exact number of it. Or you could make the amount set be arg1 text. And then this way you can do !def1 or !def3, and it will add whatever number you've specified in the command. Options are endless how you want to work that. These are just all the possibilities. And again, this is all just the basics we've learnt compiling. And that is how these commands are going to get confusing, probably, but also more complicated, is by compiling a load of basic bits together. That's all it is. Twitch channel points. A lot of people have fun with these. This is a really nice way to make people's channel points actually feel worth something, because you can have something happen. This is what I think this is one of the main pulls that MixItUp has, is being able to do something with channel points. Now, before you do anything, I have a high up recommendation for you. If you want to be able to update this channel point using MixItUp, for example, I have a first redeem that only one person can redeem right at the start of stream. Whoever redeems it first gets it. They get first. They were there first. I have this command update the name of the Twitch redeem to include the person who redeemed it. It will say first redeemed by and say their username. You can only do things like that and things like turning them on, turning them off, updating the cost of them, pausing them. You can only play around with this if you create new channel point reward within MixItUp first. So if you're wanting that type of capability, make sure you do this first. I recently finally moved my Twitch channel redeems all to MixItUp so that I can control them. Because I do subscriber streams and I don't want them to be able to use my redeems whilst I'm live, and I don't want to have to turn them all on and off manually every time I'm about to do or finish a subscriber stream. So I've added all of my redeems on MixItUp first, and I have a command that switches them on and off. The only reason that's possible is because I've created all of my redeems within MixItUp first. You can add any command to these. So I'm just going to add to existing because I've already added them all. And if I just select one randomly, you'll see this looks almost identical to a command. Because you can do everything that a command can do. This is where people will have a daily redeem, where it just increases a currency. And again, let me just remind you, top to bottom. Everything in MixItUp will work top to bottom. So, a lot of people make the mistake of at username has user leaves, leaves. And then currency, consumables, leaves, add to user 1. If you do it this way, it's going to post how many leaves they had, then add the currency. So it won't be correct. So if it's their first person redeeming it, it's going to say they have 0. And then it'll add 1. Make sure it's this way. It will add, you want almost all of the time, you want that chat message to be the last thing that sends. Almost every single time. You want that chat message to happen last. Because then everything can update before the information is sent. Make sure you do your orders correctly. Other things you can do with Twitch channel points. It's genuinely, there's so much, have fun with making the commands for it. There's your daily redeems, overlay that pops up on stream, sound redeems. If you want sound bites, you can do that with the redeems using MixItUp. You can post a chat message with your links. I've seen a really fun use of it where someone has a really cheap channel redeem that's just their links, and people click it and it posts your links in chat for them, so lurkers can easily find your links too. It's incredible. Some examples of how I use functionality of being able to update the redeems because I made them first in MixItUp. This is where adding everything together comes in. Events, stream start, action, Twitch, update channel point reward, early cookie. This is my early redeem that I have. What happens is when stream starts, it enables it. And it posts the message, get yourself an early cookie for being early. Then it will wait 10 minutes. This is an unlocked command because it's waiting 10 minutes. And then after the 10 minutes, it will update, it will pause it, and it will say try again next stream. This is what it looks like now because the command has worked and it's pausing it right now. When I start stream again, it will unpause, it will say, get an early cookie, and then the cycle continues. And again, this is only possible because I made this redeem in MixItUp first. And then I also have a first redeem that changes the name. So if I, in Twitch channel points, add to existing command, because it's already there, first, and then Twitch channel point update first. The name is first, and when someone redeems it, only one person can redeem it. Then it can change to say username claimed first. Try and beat username next stream. Or you can have it say like, you're too slow, or something like that. And that will update it to say who redeemed first, which makes first have more weight, because then anyone who looks at your redeems later on in stream will see that someone redeemed it and their name is there to see for everyone. It makes it, people want it more. People want it more and people will use it more. There's plenty you can do with Twitch channel points. Literally the limit is your imagination. The redemption store is just Twitch channel points, but with a little bit more personalizing to it. So here when we edit products here, you add your items and how many of that item you can have, and you can edit usage requirements so that only certain people can have these products if you want that to be the case, or only a certain amount of people can do it every so often, or maybe you want it to be like 5 people have to buy plank before you do the plank. for example, because I know some people have like fitness stuff in their redeems. So you can do that with all of these items. You can also have auto replenish, which means that whatever quantity you set, every time you reload the software, it will restart it back up to full. And auto redeem just means that you don't have to run a command to accept it. If you don't want that to be the case and you want to manually accept it, you can do that, and then there is a command here for you to find it. You can choose what your command is, and you can edit the commands that say it. But this is just a more personal Twitch channel points. This is great for people who maybe don't want to become affiliates. I know a lot of people that enjoy streaming and don't want to have the option there for people to subscribe and want to leave that all off. So this is a great way to have access to channel points without having channel points. This also adds weight to whatever currencies you have if you want it to cost that. Limits are endless. But this is basically just Twitch channel points. We have passed all the basics. Congratulations! We've gone through all the basics. I'm proud of you. We're about to go on to conditionals. Conditionals, it shouldn't take us too long to go through. There's a couple types of conditionals that I am not 100% familiar with and don't know how it works, so I'm not going to go over them for that reason. I've asked a question about one of them because I've been fighting with it for a week. So I've asked a question in the Discord, which, again, the Discord, super helpful. You should join it if you want to ask people help at any time. There are things that I still don't know, but I've still been able to build some really cool systems. There's going to be things you don't know. You'll still be able to build really cool systems, even if you use just the basics that I've taught you today. Even if you don't use conditionals, it's going to be cool either way. But I'm gonna show you some basic stuff that I think you'll really like to implement, and I'll show you some more complicated stuff that should hopefully inspire you. If you want to copy it, go for it. I don't mind. I really just like people enjoying the things I make and using them. If they inspire you, even better. Now, daily tea. We're there. No, we're there. Oh, can I please just click on a button? So I have a pop-up, and the pop-up is different depending on the user, and I will teach you how to do this in a second, but each user in my chat has a text file associated with them, and each line of that text file relates to something different. So line 1 is what their angel or devil number is. Line 2 is whether they had a lucky day or not. Line 3 is what daily underwear they got given. And so on. Line 4 is their randomly rolled D&D character for that day. I think this is line 8. See, I can remember things. Line 8. So it reads their specific text file. And the way you can make text files for people is on a save to file. You just append the special identifier username after a backslash. That's a backslash. I always get mixed up between forward slashes and backward slash. You append the special identifier username. And if they don't have a text file when writing, it will make a text file for them. And what I do is whenever anyone enters chat, it will make a text file with them that will fill all of the lines that I need, so that I don't have any problems with it trying to read line 7 when there's nothing on line 7, for example. So I have them come in, it writes something on each line of a file, and then when they do this redeem, it will change the specific line in that text file. What it will do is it will read what cup they have set. If they have a chosen random cup, it will change the special See, this is why mine's a little bit complicated. It will change the special identifier, cup, use a cup random item, which will randomly choose from all of the ones that they own in a certain inventory. If they don't have that, it will just set it to this. It adds their daily tea. That's nice and simple. Now, the cup overlay, it basically links to a file on my computer, and then the special identifier here for cup. All of my images for this overlay are saved with the name that is the same code used for the inventory. Are we following? So this means that they can set what they want theirs to be. So if they write and they say they want their flower teacup, this will change to the word flower. I have an image file that is the flower teacup that's saved with the name flower, and it will find that one. I also... I went a little bit further and did it worse, which again, if you understood the first bit, you'll understand this. This is with conditionals. There's different types of tea. And I thought it'd be cute to change the colour of the tag depending on what tea people get. So if they get a berry tea, a vanilla chai, or a red raspberry leaf tea, it will use the burgundy tag. So this is with conditionals. And this is or. If it's any of these, it will set the special identifier tag to be burgundy. And this tag here, again, file with all of the tags in it. And the files are named whatever could be the special identifier that I've set. And it will bring it up with the teacup. You don't have to do that. You can just have it pop up. And that would just mean having an overlay. If you just want it to be simple, you can just add an overlay that's a text thing. Or you could be extra like me and use special identifiers, text files, and conditionals, which we will go into because we're about to go into the command building blocks. And bear in mind, this daily tea was added a year ago. This was a year into my knowing and experimenting and playing with MixItUp. It might take you a while to build something like this, and that's okay. Start small. Start with just an overlay. Then think, oh, I think it'd be fun for the picture to look different, and people can set it as whatever they want. Make the different files. Make it so that the files are the same as a special identifier that they can set in a different command. Because the way they set it is a command here. Set teacup. So, first it checks to make sure that user cup all contains what they've written. It's making sure that they have the teacup that they're trying to set. If it does, it will remove line 8. Then it will insert line 8, what they have said. It will then put whatever they've chosen as an overlay so they can see it. And it'll send a chat message to say, you've set it to this. And it will reset random cup because I have it so that they can choose to have it random if they want, which means that they get given a currency. And if they have the currency, it'll just randomly pick. If they don't have a currency, it'll read the line from the file. And then here, if user cup all doesn't contain what they have said, it'll just say, you do not own this cup. And that's how they set their teacups. Again, this is the complicated stuff. This is everything meshed together. Loads of things happening. But these are the ways that I use conditionals. I made a Wikipedia for all of this so that people could keep on top of it because there's just so many commands, which is the worry. So before you go like balls to the wall, for lack of better term to say, be careful, because if you implement too much, it can feel really daunting to new viewers, which is a thing that I've struggled to balance myself. I have a lot of really cool interactive things, but if my community are in the middle of their daily spamming, or the teacup gacha just dropped and the chat flies past because everyone's redeemed it, it can be really overwhelming for new people. So make sure that when you're adding things, it has worth and it has a point of being there. And it makes sense with everything you already have implemented. Because you can do whatever you want, and it's your space, do what you want with it. But I really recommend making sure that everything holds a worth, so that new viewers that are joining you don't feel ostracized because they don't know what's going on. So I'm going to start by introducing you to different things that I use as building blocks for these commands, so you can see why I use certain things and what value they can have. They're the basics that I use to build these complicated commands. You probably heard me mentioning them quite a few times in all of my redeems that I'm talking about, because I use these. These are my foundations for all of my really complicated things. So, first things first. Special identifiers. I showed you earlier the website when we touched on what a special identifier is. It tracks so much data. You can do so much with these. You can find a list of all of the pre-made ones on the website. There's dates, there's stream information, there's user information, there's currency information, there's information for events. If you're like, oh, I wonder if I could do this depending on this, have a look. There might be an identifier for it, you never know. You can make your own using an action, so you don't have to have the pre-made ones. If we go into the commands here, and I just add, there's a special identifier here. Add it. This is how you make your own. This, as it is right now, 10 number. Then if I have a chat message here that posts number, that will post 10. That's how special identifiers work. This is what you're going to use here, and it will post whatever you've assigned this value to. This can be anything. So this is where a lot of people will have like random number generators here. You can just put that in chat, but some people might want it as a special identifier first. You can have arg1 text, if you want it to be whatever someone's added after the command they've used. Now here at the bottom, I don't want you to get worried about anything. It can get a little bit confusing. First things first, make it globally usable. This means that once this is set in value, you can use this special identifier anywhere on MixItUp until you close the application. So if you want it to update something, if you want it to set a special identifier and you want this special identifier to be on an overlay widget, you can set it to be globally usable. And then this, whatever it is, will be on your widget. A way that I used this in the past is when for my goal that I had when I was doing a birthday stream and I had different goals happening, I wanted it to say what the current goal was. So what I did, in the simplest way that I can think I put it, when the goal was achieved, it set the goal number to be higher, and it changed the special identifier to say what the next goal was, and then it changed the overlay to say it so people knew what the next tier of the goal was for. Making it globally usable means that this, if I had a separate command that had this chat message, would post 10 still. Is math expression will do maths for you. So you can put maths equations in here, and it can do maths equations with special identifiers, with counters, so bear that in mind, but it can do a math equation for you, and then you can make it a special identifier. So if I did 10 minus arg1 text, That would do 10 minus whatever they added after their command trigger, save it to number, and it would post whatever the result was. I have never played with replace special identifiers in functions, so I don't know what that is. YouTube video, I will edit on top if I find that information out, so that you can find out that way. I've never used it for any of my complicated stuff, and I've never looked at it and gone, what does that do? I maybe should have, because last time I did that I learned what show on chat list context menu was, but it's not something I know. It's there. There'll be information about it on the wiki for it. Special identifiers are amazing. I use them, so it's probably one of the things I use the most. You can make your own. Custom ones can be made global. Can be used in overlays. Great for conditionals. Your special identifiers are going to be the base of your conditionals. An example that I have at the bottom there, if special identifier for day equals Monday, send a chat message saying Happy Monday. Maybe you have a wildcard command that says, hey bot, or hey chat. When someone says that, for whatever reason, it'll post, and a conditional can be like, if the day is Monday, the bot responds, Happy Monday. If the day is Tuesday, the bot responds, Happy Tuesday. Or you can even do happy special identifier day if you want, and it'll just post the day that way. Special identifiers are incredible. There's so many uses for them. Groups, when you get into your bigger commands, are going to be just great for keeping your commands tidy. They're great within random actions as well. So if you just want a load of things to happen to make a special identifier, for example, and like maybe it will do a little bit of maths, it'll read a few files, and then it'll find a special identifier. You can add that all into a group. Or, this is great for your timers as well. If you have a random command here, and it only chooses one, and you have a group here, and another group here, and each of these things has a couple different actions within them, it will choose randomly to do this group of actions. So it's a good way to have a random thing do an overlay, a sound, and a message. All in one. But those all will happen together, randomly, separate from other groups. Groups are great for keeping things tidy and for having more complicated random actions. Action groups, my beloved. If you haven't played a round of action groups, I really, really highly recommend using them. I have so many in my own profile. It's an editable copy-paste. For me, with my cookie system, giving VIP when someone has 75 cookies, I have a mathematical equation special identifier that checks to see if they have a multiple of 75 cookies. If they have 75 cookies, it adds them to a text file for me to add VIP to them the next month. You don't need to worry about what that text file does. Just know that that's what happens every time they get given a cookie. However, they get given a cookie in so many different instances. So I make the action group to do that maths and to add them to the text file if they do have a multiple of 75. That itself is an action group that I put within the commands that add cookies. It's a great way to do the planning for the structure of your commands. It's perfect for any background work going on. If you use special identifiers that are global, then you can make it a framework for your commands. Again, a little bit more complicated, but action groups are just your editable copy and paste that you can have within other commands without having to change each of the command it's part of individually. It'll save you a lot of time. Currency, we've already gone over how you can add currency and what currencies are available. It is great for tracking users though. It is great to make your own custom cooldown. I personally don't like having cooldowns on my commands if someone does the !angel command and they get a random angel number, 2 hours later they might not remember what it is, or if they got like 69%, they might want to brag about it to someone who's just come into chat. Instead of them doing angel again and it telling them, sorry, you've got to wait until tomorrow, it will post the exact same percentage that they got that day. It tracks whether or not they've done it yet using currencies. And I'll show you how to make custom cooldowns later as well, if you prefer the idea of that versus having the cooldown be in the usage requirement. Counters are amazing. They're great for tracking statistics, which recently I just implemented a way to track every time someone does all of the redeems that I have, so that at the end of the year I can see which of my redeems are used the most. You can use them as a switch, so if you want a command, for example, to turn something on, and then doing that same command again turns something off, you can use counters as a switch to do that. Again, I will show that later. And there's the voting system, so if you want to do voting, you can use overlays with the counters, and people can add to them counters to do voting. Next, text files. Text files, my beloved, I have so many. Now, if I quickly show you my amount of text files that I have, you'll see that it is very easy to get carried away. So these are all of the text files that I have that are related to MixItUp. They all store something different. They all relate to a different command. So a lot of text files. There's also groups here. This is how I built my D&D stuff. So these are all of the different stats for the different races. There's a lot. The different races and the different classes are all within that. But text files will possibly be a lifeline for you if you enjoy random generated stuff, but you want it to feel a little bit more organic. Great for storing information, like I was talking about. You can make text files for chatters, and then you can grab that information back about them. So I know some people have like Pokemon teams. You can have your chat make a Pokemon team, and they could do !team, and it shows you what their team is. You can do custom giveaways over a longer period of time. I recently did this. Every time someone redeemed something, it added their name to a list. And then I was able to have that list at the end of a month, because when I close MixItUp, I'm too scared to even test it. I'm imagining a giveaway would just cancel. So I have it so that no matter whether or not I open or close MixItUp, I could have all of these names accumulating, and then I could do a random number generator at the end. Examples. You can keep a list of subscribers. I have a... This is really fun to look back on. This isn't for anyone else except me, but I have a support book. And every time an event happens, it adds to line 2 whatever's happened. So you can see follows, you can see raids, you can see subs tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, whether it's their first time subscriber. And I've been keeping this for a few months now. And the list goes on. This is a really fun way to use text files if you want to store information, but you don't want to write it all down like I used to. Having a different text response on each trigger, so if you want a random message to say each time, I recently implemented, someone said, "I love you, Felix." Felix is the name of my bot, and he didn't respond, and everyone was like, wow, Felix is rude. So now, whenever someone says it, it's a wild card, someone saying, "I love you, Felix." It will randomly choose a line of any of these, and there's a few different options, and it will randomly choose one and it'll post it. Wonderful, great, love that. Makes it feel a little bit more organic. Unfortunately, the downside of this is people may take a little while to realize that your bot is a bot. I have quite a few people quite a few people have told me that in the beginning of them being part of my community, they thought my bot was a real person because of these wildcard commands that I added and him saying hey and him responding and stuff. You can really personify, or would that be the right? I think so. You can really personify your bot doing things like that. You can have a random generator that consists for all of stream, which again, if I go into my chat, so I have a folder here called chat, and every single chatter that has done anything where I would want to store information has a text file. So if I go into their text file here, it stores their information in there. That was a mistake that I haven't fixed, but it doesn't cause any issues, so I haven't fixed it. But all of this, this is a teacup that they have. This is their birthday, because I have it so that they can set their birthday, and then when they enter chat, if it is their birthday, it'll say happy birthday, and it'll give them a cookie. You can see these NAs. These are things that this chatter hasn't interacted with. This is a holographic seamless panty. This was the underwear that they've generated the last stream. 91% devil is the percentage devil that they got. And they didn't get lucky day, so it's a typical day. That is how I store all of my chat stuff so that they can refer back to what they randomly generated. MixItUp updates them. They're all I never touch them. I never ever touch them text files. They are all automatically done by MixItUp updating. So the way that you add that, I will just quickly show you. I'll be talking about it a little bit more later. But you can text file A, B, C, D, E, F. I hate it. There's always so much. Save to file. Browse. Chat. I've already made myself one here. Save here. And yes to replace it. And then instead of the name, you want to do the special identifier for username. If they don't have a file, it will make a file. So it will just continuously grow as you need it to. Which is wonderful. And then if you want to read, again, read will work the same. It'll just read that text file. Text files are amazing. So, I'm going to talk to you about conditionals now. This is going to be the conditionals. This is going to be where you really learn how to do if this then that within your bot to make it feel even more interactive. I'm going to demonstrate everything we do. I've got examples for all of the different types of instances for the conditionals, so we can talk through it. And then at the end, once I'm done, if anyone has any questions, if anyone has any commands they want me to help them build, I'll be here for a little bit afterwards, and we can talk through, we can brainstorm, I can help you figure some stuff out if that is something you're interested in. So, I'm going to add a new command here just so we can have an instance where I show the conditionals. It is its own action, and we just add it there. So we're going to have a look at what you have available here. I'm going to talk about what each thing is, what they all mean, get you acquainted with just looking at this blank action here before we start doing anything with it. Add clause just adds another thing that is needed. It just adds another conditional. That's all it does. So if you only want one thing to be checked, you only have to have one thing to be checked. If you want multiple things to be checked, you just add a clause. When you have multiple, this is when you'll be interested in the operator. If you only have one, the operator does not matter. If you have multiple, the operator does matter. So if I have 4 things here, and means that every single one of these 4 conditionals has to be true to run. That is what and means. And is every single thing has to be true. Or means that at least one. Doesn't have to be all of them. Only has to be one. for this to work. Recently learned about XOR. Only one condition needs to be true. This means that if you have two conditions true, it won't run. Only one. So OR is any of them, AND is all of them, XOR is one of them. Now here at top, you can choose if it's case sensitive. I never select this because I know there'll be an instance where the case is wrong and I wanted it to work either way. So I never choose case sensitive, but you might have conditionals that require the correct case. That is where you can make it so that it is case sensitive. And repeat while true will continuously do the actions whilst this is correct. I will show you a reason why this is useful later. But repeat while true, if I added a chat message here that said hi, and it said hi whilst user leaves equaled 5, was I don't know, less than or equal to 5. Whilst user leaves is less than or equal to 5, it says hi. Over and over and over again in chat. That is how that would work. Maybe you would want to hear add to user however many leaves, and then it will just say hi until the amount of leaves they have is higher than, this is more like, this is greater than, I meant less than. Hello, thank you. So until they surpass 5 leaves, it will continuously say hi. But that is just repeat while true. Now you see, this is your link to special identifiers. If you click this, it will open the web page where all of the special identifiers exist that aren't the event ones. Again, the event ones are on a separate page, but all of your special identifiers otherwise are there. And here, you can see, you can copy from existing command. You can choose chat, and then you can choose between these. So if you want it to do exactly what a command does, you can import it that way. Or you can export and import whatever is underneath here. So this is a good way to copy paste. And then up here, by the way, you do have a duplicate. So you can continuously duplicate if you want to within a command. The actions here will only trigger if this conditional is correct. And that is conditionals. You usually have special identifiers in these values. You've got this compare, which will look at all of the compares closely. I'm going to make an example for most of these. Anything that I know how to use, I will be giving you an example for. Once this is true, it runs the actions underneath it. So your compare options, this is this middle bit here. You have equals. That means that these two have to equal. You have your does not equal. These two have to not match for this to work. You have your greater than. This side needs to be bigger than this side. If you have, in school, I don't know if you learned with the crocodile method, the crocodile eats the bigger amount. The crocodile's hungry, it wants the bigger amount. So whichever way this is facing open, this is the bigger one that it wants. This has to be greater than this. Greater than or equal to, this needs to be bigger than or the same as this side. Less than, this has to be less than this value. Less than or equal to, same again. This has to be less than or equal to this value, and that is all the mathematical symbols. Then, moving up from that, you have contains and don't contains. This is usually used with text files. So read text file, if it contains this value, run that. If it doesn't contain that value, run something else. Again, this will respond to special identifiers as all of this will. There will be an example for contains later. Between changes what this looks like here, and you can choose two values. So if this is in between these two values, then it will run. Now replaced, I thought I had down, and I was testing it today because another person's command wasn't working right and I wanted to check it. And I just don't think it works how it's intended. That's my own opinion because I don't want to think I know it wrong. I've asked in the Discord, so again, if I find out what this is by the time that I release this video, I will update the video to let you know how replaced works. But as of right now, I don't feel comfortable telling you how this works. How it is meant to work is it checks to see if the special identifier you have populates a different information instead of staying as the special identifier itself. So for example, if you made an argument here, this is how I think it should work. If you have a user requirement here, and you make it a special identifier, and you make it optional, the way I feel like this should work is that if that special identifier that you have specified is replaced, it will do something with that special identifier. Because they have assigned something after they've done that. If they do, say this is a chat, if they do exclamation mark, hug, username, if, and this is person is replaced, it'll try and hug them. If it is not replaced, it will tell them that they hug themselves. So I am correct, and this is how this is supposed to work. The problem has now been reported, but I do have a workaround that I've been told about, which I will show you and also give you the file so you can play around with it. The first instance checks that the argument has been replaced and that the argument produces anything that isn't nothing. The second instance checks to see if the argument has not been replaced or the value equals nothing. This should work for you. Regex max I am not covering. That is a really complicated thing that is going to go over any newbie's head. And I mean that endearingly. It is, I'm looking at it and I'm like, no. No, that is not. That is very confusing. You don't need to know that when you're starting out. And then you've got is in and is not in, which works similar to contains and contain. Examples. So we're going to do a conditional, starting with the mathematical equations. But before we do this, we need to have currency to work with for the systems that I'm going to do. So I'm going to use what I have as an example, just because then I don't need to magically think things up. I can just do what I'm familiar with. So passive currency, leaves. Active currency, they have to actively seek it out, cookies. Inventory, ingredients. And then I didn't have ranks when I made this. I do now, but I wouldn't even use that for this workshop anyway because the ranks I've implemented are way too confusing. So we're just going to have these ranks instead for bakers, pot wash, barista, and baker. And you'll see there's a number associated with each of those. Those are the experience points that they will need to accumulate to get to that level. The number is important if you are doing a mathematical equation because you will want to include the experience points rather than the name of that rank. Equals does not equal. So we can make a Twitch redeem that will give a different currency depending on the user role. So say we want there to be more cookies given to subscribers than non-subscribers. What it will do is it will check a special identifier that we're using is user is subscriber. And this checks whether or not the user is a subscriber. What else we will need is currency and chat message. But we want to check if user is subscriber is true, and if the user is a subscriber, consumable, this is, I can't write. We'll pretend this is cookies, and it adds 2. Duplicate this. If user is subscriber equals false, it will add 1. And you can add like a text file, you can add a text. You can add a chat message for this as well. So if you had at username got 2 cookies. I can spell username. And then this chat message here could say at username got 1 cookie. And then you can push this a little bit further. You can do user now has user cookies. And then it can post how many they have updated to that point. One good thing to remember when building conditionals is you want to say it out loud. I find that when I'm saying out loud what I want to do, the compare that I need to use and the way to lay out the conditional will make sense. If user is subscriber equals true, if it is true that they are a subscriber, you add 2. If it is false that they are a subscriber, adds 1. And that is how I would use an equals. There's so many different special identifiers here. I'm sure you can think of a load of examples, and I'm happy to brainstorm some. Another one, so this is where I will introduce to you how I do my custom cooldowns so that the response persists throughout the stream. So they have the same thing. So if I just delete these ones, I want to have a conditional. What we'll need for this is inventory, text files, and special identifiers. If they have not done the command before, it will run the command and then add a check currency. I highly recommend setting this out as an inventory. If you do this type of cooldown instead of using the user requirements, you want to make an inventory called check. Max amount 1. We're going to add the item. This is going to be for Angel. Add item. Save. So, the way this is going to work, this is how we do custom cooldowns. If user check Angel equals 0. Now, bear with me, because if you notice what I'm doing is wrong, I will be changing it later to fix it, just so that we can get the thought process down first. So if user check Angel equals 1, it will read a text file, a random line from a text file, and this will pull from the Angel probability. And this will make the special identifier Angel. Now notice how I name this. Find Angel. Name your commands. Name your commands. This will make your life so much easier. Name them. Name the actions within them, because this will make it so easy to find what's going on. And also it will help you visualize it once you've put it all together. So it will read Angel. It will then file read and write, save to file, and this is where you're going to save this to their username. Have a folder called chat somewhere, and then change the username here to use a special identifier. This now, if they don't have one, will make one. Text to save, that special identifier Angel. We're going to have save Angel as this action. Then currency. Chat message first. I'll let you have that one first. So, chat message, you can have at username angel, and that'll just post whatever it reads from that text file. And I don't usually name that. Currency consumables, check, add to user, angel, 1. This is going to state that they have used this command that day. This is where the toggle starts. This is where it starts to become a persistent use. Now what will happen is if they have 0, it will read from the random generator file that I have. It will save the answer to their own personal text file. It will send the response into chat, and it will add a consumable to say that they have run the command. Then I'm going to duplicate this. Now this is where the order of your conditionals and the order of your commands in general matter. Because if I put 0 at the top and 1 at the bottom, it will run this top one first. It will then add this currency to make it 1. It continues the command, and you do now have 1. So it will also run this. You want to have that 1 at the top, so that it checks if they have 1. If they don't, it checks if they have 0, then it adds 1 and it doesn't continue the command and duplicate it. For this one, you want to, instead of save to file, read from file and send chat message. And that is how I make my own persisting command. You will want this to reset either on the event of opening the application, on the event of starting stream, on the event of ending stream, on the event of closing the application. However it is, however often you want them to be able to do this command is what you set as how frequently this will reset. If you want to, you can have it reset daily within... Actually, I don't know if you can reset daily in inventory. Let me see. Check. No, so you can't have this reset automatically. You will have to set that as its own event whenever you want that to happen. Oh, whoops. This itself can be quite confusing. Does anyone want me to slow down and repeat anything to do with that, or have we followed along? Because this is when it really matters in terms of the order that you do these commands, and you've got the text files going, you've got the currencies going, you've got text messages, you've got chat messages. It can be quite a lot. But all that happens is, new person comes into chat. They do not have user check angel. They do this command. Their user check angel equals 0. So this is not correct. So it doesn't run this, it skips this. Comes down to this one, user check angel equals 0. That is right. This is correct. So now it can run this. It reads the random text generator. It saves it to their own text file. It sends a chat message. And then it adds the check currency. Then what happens? They forget what they got. So they do the command again. This time, user check angel equals 1. So what happens is, reads from file their own text file that is theirs individually, and then it posts that in chat instead. And that is how that works. I am happy to export this and give it in chat right now if you would like it, if you would like to keep this as a layout, because then you can just copy and paste this however you want. So if you want to use that as a base, You can. I could even make this as a its own thing. So I can make it be custom cool down. There we go. So just remember, if you do this, you need to have a way for this to set back to 0. You need to make sure there is a way to set that back to 0 at the start of your stream or whenever you want that to reset. But this way, it can continuously repopulate whatever it is that you want it to, basically. Moving on, we're comfortable? Conditional. So, contains and does not contains. The only use I've ever used this for is in text files. You can probably use it for many things. Again, most of this whole workshop isn't me showing you all of the different things that you can do with this bot. I'm hoping to just show you the understanding of how it works with some inspiration, and then you can build stuff from that. But we change this to contains. All we need here is a text file on the separate lines. We're imagining this in our brains on separate lines. On this text file, we've got the options: get hit in the head with a conker, birds fly away, and leaves fall. There are 3 lines in this text file, and those are 3 options. Before the conditional runs, we're going to have a file, read random line from file, file path, shake result, and we're going to have a special identifier result. If result, we're setting it up. If it contains something to do with conkers, if that is at any point mentioned in this, I'm adding the exclamation mark because the exclamation mark is there here. Consumables, leaves, subtract from user. I don't know, we'll take 10 away. And then say a chat message, result. At username, lost some leaves. Duplicate. Remember to name your things. Hit with conker. This one, we've got birds fly. This one, instead of taking away currency, we're going to have nothing happen. And it's just pretty. Birds. Consumables. Delete that one. Chat message. At username. Don't forget the special identifier tag. User name result. And that'll populate the result and just send the chat message. And then if leaves fall, if it contains leaves, then it will add to user. Username caught some leaves. And now what happens here is it will read a random line from this file. It will get a random option between get hit in the head with a conker, birds fly away, or leaves fall. If result, if it reads the line and it contains conker with an exclamation mark, it will remove leaves from the person and it will send a message saying get hit in the head with a conker at username lost some leaves. If the result of reading the random line from a file contains birds, then it will say at username birds fly away. If the result found contains leaves, it will add leaves to the user and then say so. And that's how I would use contains. Another way to use contains or does not contain. Instead, we're going to have exclamation mark forage. So this is going to be a foraging command. And this is going to relate to an inventory called forageables, where there are mushrooms, berries, and sticks. Because why not? You're going to read a random line from the text file. You're going to find result by reading a random line from a text file. Then, same as last time, conditional, if result contains the word mushroom, post result, which will just say Felix went foraging and found a mushroom, and then currency, and it would be an inventory here, add to user, mushroom 1. Similar to the one before, except instead it's using an inventory, and more applicable to the word, because you could just have it No, I don't think I need to add anything more because I don't want to confuse you all. And what I'm going to be adding is just fluff. I don't want to add fluff, I don't want to confuse you. So just know here that if the text file or whatever you have on this side of the conditional, if it contains whatever you have put on this side, then it will do whatever you want it to. For example here, if mushroom is inside of result, it will add a mushroom and it will tell someone that they found mushrooms. There'll be other things that you can do with this. This is one example of how you can use contains. Now, if you wanted to make this more complicated, using the custom cooldown that we did before, you could save whatever the result is to that person's personal text file. Again, remember earlier I said that you can add to certain lines of a text file. Depends how you want to do it. You can have a file group based on the command, and then it'll have one line in each of the text files. Or you can have one group full of text files of the usernames, and each type of conditional will add to separate lines. That way you don't have to have multiple different files on your computer, which can, I don't think text files take up too much in terms of space, but you kind of want to conserve where you're able to. So instead of it saving to file, you can save to specific line in file, and you can have certain lines relate to certain aspects of your bot. So here, what I could do is, if I build this up, so send chat message result, add, we'll pretend this is mushroom 1. Duplicate. If it includes berry, it says that they get a berry, it adds a berry. If it says stick, adds a stick. What we can do, export that to our copy, delete these, import our custom cooldown. If user check forage equals 0, import our copy. It will run the whole command. It will find the forage, and it will run the conditionals of whether or not they got mushrooms, berries, or sticks. And then you'll want to add a file, save to file, username, now this save to file will overwrite whatever you had beforehand, whereas you can insert in file at specific line. If you are doing this, remember to remove whatever was there before. So when I was talking about how this works with my chat that I have, I'll just get up that example again, because it'll be so much easier to explain with an example up. Okay. I could honestly probably do that for this person, just manually. So here you will see that this one chat member has something on each line of this file. There's some NAs here. I have a action group that is associated with entering chat. When someone enters chat, it inserts on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 NA if there's nothing already there. Now what this will do here, so that it can all be on one text file, this will remove specific line 1 and then insert in specific line 1. If you only had insert at specific line, you'll have the issue that I had earlier there, that I removed, where there's just a ton of lines of the same thing. Which if you have multiple that you want to keep track of, that will not be good. That will mess it all up. And then you'll be reading... If Devil kept just inserting at line 2, what would happen is this would do this every time it ran. And then when I wanted to find out what panty this person had in that day, it would just say 91% Devil instead of holographic seamless panty. And if I wanted to read what cup this person has set their teacup to be, instead of it saying the white teacup, it would say 91% a Devil. So you want to make sure that when you're using this system here, specifically, where each chatter only has one text file, you want to make sure that A, when someone joins, it will read line 1. It will populate. If nothing is there, it will populate to be NA. NA. When this runs, it will remove this file, remove this line, and then it will add back to the line, keeping everything right. Each time this runs, it will remove the line, it will add the line. How many people have I lost? I'm imagining quite a few. This was difficult to get my head around. If this confuses you, but you want to have this remain, then you can just have different folders for the different commands. So instead of like what I have here, where I have one big command that is just everything for chat, you could have one of them be Pokemon collected. You could have the other one be forage. You can have a different one be angel number. So you can have different folders that store all of the different information for them, and then all that will happen is there'll just be one line of text on each of these text files, and it'll still work. If you want to keep it neater and tidier. You can try and figure out what I was just explaining. Have fun with that. So it will remove line 1, add back to line 1, and then up here, it will read specific line from file, line 1, for forage, and then it will post forage. And now we've just condensed two things together. We've just added two of the conditionals together to make it a little bit more, make it a bit more interesting, a little bit bigger. This is how you can start small and make it larger and larger as you need to. Using the export, using the import, and slow and steady, you can make more and more interesting commands. Between is the next of the operators. We're going to make a feed command. We're going to make a feed command where the bot reacts differently depending on how much you feed it. Now, I've already spoken about the fact that I have this in my stream. I've built this around a game that already exists. I've reskinned the volcano game, and that's how I do the feed command. However, if you aren't interested in that, we can make it ourselves. We can make it a different way. For this, we'll need a currency, and we'll need a currency requirement minimum of 0. So if you go up here, currency requirement, add, minimum only, 1, set this to leaves. So now we've got a currency requirement minimum of 1, and we've got the currency of leaves that we are paying attention to. Now if arg1 text, which will be the number that they add after they've done exclamation mark feed. So they'll have to do exclamation mark feed 1 if they want to feed 1 leaf. If arg1 text, which will be the number, is less than 10. It can say a message that Felix, my bot, nibbles away at the leaves. I mean, we're not going to think too much about the fact that I have my bot feed a fox. Leaves, I don't know why it happened, or when it happened, it happened. That's all that we need to worry about. Then we'll be using the between here. Between. Minimum value, 10. Maximum value, 100. Or if you want 100 to be the trigger for the next tier, you can do 99. So if it is between them, Felix tucks in and gobbles the leaves. So this is less than 10. This is between. And then this is greater than or equal to 100. So if arg1 text is greater than or equal to 100, you can have Felix eats as much as he can and then goes for a nap. And that's a really simple way of using the between. Now again, I'm going to show you how to make something a little bit more complicated. We can make this more alive with text files. So you can have a text file of random things that can be said based on each tier. So I can do for if someone feeds Felix less than 10, we're going to file, read and write, read a random line from a file. This will be the file for nibble. Again, you're going to browse. Here, don't type. Actually browse for the text file. So say if I just select this for the sake, instead of, it'll be workshop, nibble. So this is looking at the nibble text file, and it will find the response, nibble. Find nibble. and then it can do @username nibble. And then this will read a random line from a text file, and it'll give a random response, but it's still within the same vibe. So if you want there to be a random thing to happen if they nibble, and a random thing to happen when they scoff, you can do this. Then again, if it's between, text file. Read random line. We'll have this one be eat. We want this to find eat. And again, @username eat. And it will give you a random generated text file, but only within this parameter. And then we've got, if there's more than 100 or equal to 100, file, read random line from file, file path, grab this, I'll give this one full, find full, and then we've got @username full. So now we've just gone from, there's three messages that it sends. You get one, 2, or 3. Those are your 3 options. That's all that happens. We've gone from that to now having, if you have 3 text lines in each of these files, there's now 9 options instead. A little bit more of an interest in this bot. We can make it have stakes, so we can make it even more. So if I always do this. There we go. I can have it so that if arg1 text equals 1, it's going to read a random line instead from steal. And again, if any of these ideas you end up liking, you can use them, I don't mind. Read a random line from steal. It's going to say steal. However, we could add something more. We could add consumables. And here is a special identifier for random. Leaves, subtract from user. So if whoever this is decides they're only going to feed the bot 1, well then the bot is going to steal random number 100. And this will do a random number between 1 and 100. It'll steal the random number, and good to know, random number special identifiers persist across the same command. They don't generate a new random number each time they show up within the same command. It will always post the same number for each time it's triggered. So now we can say @username steal, they lost random number 100, and this will post the same number because it's the same instance of the command. Leaves. Now have user leaves. So now if they only give 1, not only are they getting a randomly generated response of how this bot is stealing the leaves away from the user, but they're also losing a random amount of leaves each time. So it's different each time someone does it. So if this equals 1, which means that this can't be less than 10, because if this stays as less than 10, then this will also trigger if they just do 1. So this becomes between. If it is between 2 and 9, then it can run the same thing. it can keep doing what it is. And we can add a little bit more interest here, because if they give more than 100 and it reads the line for full, and then we can add another conditional in here. If full contains nap, and then we want to have consumables, leaves, add to user, random number 50. This will be however many leaves our bot doesn't manage to eat. And then chat message at username result. It was full. Felix left you random number 50 leaves. Now have user leaves. And then if we copy this conditional, delete this chat message here, copy this conditional, if nap if not nap, so then if it does not contain nap, we don't add the consumables, and we just post a message. And then that's when you start doing conditionals inside of conditionals. But you see how we brought something that went from something so basic and just, there was 3 responses that could happen depending on what the person gives. And now there's adding currency depending on how much is given. There's reading of text files, so you have a random response each time something happens. You've got conditionals within conditionals, so depending on what the response is, something different happens. You see how this web can go bigger and bigger and bigger, and you can keep adding to this. Start small, build bigger later. Now, I do have pages for replaced and not replaced, but as I stated earlier, I found out that it's not quite working the way I intend, so I don't want to go over it and possibly get it wrong for you all. I don't want to teach you something for then you to have to unlearn. So we're going to skip. So I haven't used is in or is not in with any conditionals before and didn't realise that these are actually to do with delimited arguments. These are arguments that are separated by a pre-decided symbol that you will find in your settings. The command I make, however, could be useful, so instead of is not in, imagine I am using contains and does not contain. We're going to make a command that is attached to a inventory that we have, a rank that we have, my apologies. So I'm going to close this off, and we're going to go to inventory. Currency, rank is a rank system. So imagine here we've got our pot wash that was, I can't remember, I think it was 100. We've got our barista that was 200, and we've got our baker that was 300. So these are our ranks that we have in this rank system. Now, if baker is a really difficult rank to get to, you might want to remember the people who managed to get there. You can do that with text files. You can add the person's name to a text file and then have a command separate to that that'll post whatever's in that text file. But you've got to check first if they're a baker, and if you don't want duplicates, you've got to check to see if their username is in the text file that has all of the previous bakers in it. So we're going to add a command on user rank up here. So on rank up, conditional, if user bakery rank equals baker. And text file here, we're going to append this to the top. We're going to read from, again, I'll just add a placeholder here, read from bakers to find bakers. And username is not in bakers. File read and write. Append to file. Text to save. Username. And you could maybe even have a chat message here to say at username achieved the baker rank. And then what you would do here is you can have a command that goes along with this that will read this text file our previous bakers, and then have a chat message that posts them. But it will only add their name when they level up to the level of bakers if they're not in the text file. That is all for all of the different ways that you can use the conditionals that I know enough to tell you more about. Now I've got a couple examples of things that other people asked me to include. I asked around if people wanted anything mentioned. I have added some things that people mentioned. So here's some things that I've been asked to talk you through that I have implemented that people are interested in. I have an interactive inventory. People can collect ingredients, and then people can make cookies with them. Simple. What you want here is you want a currency and you want an inventory. You want your currency here. Specifically, I'll just build exactly what I need here. So we have cookies, which are disabled. You cannot claim cookies otherwise. I do not want to create those, so I'm not going to. I'm going to add an inventory called ingredients. And I'm going to add flour. I'm going to add butter. I'm going to add sugar. I'm going to save that. So, if you want to make a cookie with this inventory, you want to make a command, inventory requirements, ingredients, flour. This is the recipe for shortbread cookies. Ingredients, butter, 2. Ingredients, sugar, 1. Those are your ratios. 3 flour, 2 butter, 1 sugar. It will take this away from them when they do this command. Then what will happen here is they will gain 1 cookie. And what I like to do as well, personally, because I have ways that they can collect cookies anytime, and then they can also bake cookies. I have a separate currency that also tracks how many homemade cookies they make. So it will also add the consumable for, imagine this says homemade cookies. 1. So it will add 1 to cookies and 1 to homemade cookies. ignore the homemade cookies for now, though. It'll add one to cookies, and then it will send a chat message saying, you at username baked a cookie. They now have user cookies. And that is how I have an interactive inventory. Another part of this that I think the person who was asking me about this was on about is that when they get an ingredient, it checks how many they have. And then if they have enough to bake, it will tell them they can bake. It is much easier for me to show this if I run my own instance of MixItUp and show you how it works. But all it does is people earn their currency through the spin game. So it is a random chance that they'll either get flour, butter, or sugar. When they receive, or when one of these is true, I will, now that it's loading, I can show a little bit easier. Games. Okay, here it is. So you can see here, this is a spin game. They have a 49% chance to get flour, a 34% chance to get butter, and a 17% chance to get sugar. If they get flour, they will be given a flour. Then it will check if they have 3 flour, 2 butter, and 1 sugar at least. And is here greater than or equal to. If this is true, at the moment it sends it to a special identifier so that I can have it post in that mass dailies command that I was showing earlier. But before that was the case, it would send a chat message saying you went to the market and found flour. You now have however many they have, the whole inventory will post here, and have enough to bake. So because they have the right amounts, it's letting them know they can do it. If they do not have, so if they have less than 3 flour, or less than 2 butter, or less than 1 sugar, then instead it will say you went to the market and found flour. You now have an it'll post, but it won't tell them they can bake because they can't. And that is a good way to help guide people into doing more of your commands and interacting with all of your systems. So that is the interactive inventory. I've already gone over the complex chat messages, which you can see here. This is part of my dailies command. What happens is, instead of sending this chat message, it saves you went to the market and found flour, you now have enough to bake, as a global special identifier, which in this dailies command, it will run my huge behemoth. It will run the market setup. It will run the game, which will decide if they have flour, butter, or sugar, and it'll get that global special identifier. And then in the chat message that sends, the global special identifier is found in this message instead. You can do this with as many commands as you want. You have to run the commands at the beginning, and the commands that you are running, instead of sending a chat message, you want to save it as a global special identifier. And then when they're run, you can include them all in a condensed chat message that will post. It's worth noting here that if you want these commands, like the spin to find the ingredients, to work outside of the dailies as well, you'll need a second command that also runs the original command that then posts the special identifier. It's a fun way of making your dailies less overwhelming if you want a load of dailies to be in your streams. Automations. This is the last section. Congratulations, by the way, to everyone who's made it here. You are saints. Automations. I'm going to help you now as a reward make your life easier. I already spoke about one thing earlier, but I'll go over it again just in case anyone popped in and out. So you've got VIP systems. I have it so that it automatically gives VIP to my members every month. I have Discord messages so that it will automatically send a live message into my Discord. I have a remember to command that posts a message into my Discord reminding me to do something later so that I don't have to write it down on paper. You can manage your stream. There's some really cool things that you can do there. And you can also set up automatic events. So for example, I have an event that happens on the 11th of every month. It's called the Offerings of Time, and it's basically just a kind of subathon max ad event. Without fail, I always forget about this event. But when I start streaming on the 11th, all of my overlays switch on for me. I don't need to remember to do it, they switch on for me. It's great, and they also switch off for me when the event is over, when I finish stream. Before we get into anything complex, though, I want to go through the basic automations that I have that I love dearly, that really are just nice maintenance, that I think are very easy to apply. We spoke about it earlier, but in your events, you have an event called Twitch channel outgoing raid completed. This detects if you have raided out. If you yourself have raided out and it has been a successful raid. If this is the case, OBS Studio will stop my stream. It is beautiful. It is incredible. It means that I don't need to remember to turn it off myself. It automatically does it for me. This is one automation that I highly recommend. If you don't already know about it, don't do it. Implement it if you are the type of person to forget to stop streaming when you've raided out. Another setup that I really like. Do I have anyone here who likes to change their emotes up from time to time? And because of that, they have to go through their commands and change all of the emote codes every single time they do it, if they want to add new emotes in or whatever that be the case. Because that's me. I want to have different emotes during Halloween and maybe my birthday. Or sometimes I just want to change the code for them because I think it would work better if it was a different word. I can make it for you. Well, not make it for you. I can show you how. I can give you the power to have a database for your emotes that you can change as a text file, and then it will update all of your commands, and you never need to edit your emotes anymore within your commands ever again. It is beautiful, and it has saved me so much time, but it is so much easier to do from the ground up. I did go back and edit all of my commands after I did this. However, if you start from the beginning with this, it will be life-saving. What you want to do is, on application launch, I run an action group set emote codes. Now this is gonna look a little bit scary when I open it, but don't worry, I'll talk through it. So, action groups. Emote codes. Like I say, it's gonna look a little bit scary, but don't worry. Each one of these is a group to make it a little bit tidier, but these are all of the emotes that I have set as a database. You don't have to have this many. You can just have like one. You can have two. You can have as many as you want. All you need to look at, these are just duplicated from this. It looks identical except from what it reads and what the special identifier is. So if I grab the text file that this is going to read from to show you how it works, wonderful. So I have this text file. This text file has the emote codes for all of my emotes that I have that I want to be in this bot. What this action group does is it will read the specific line 1, it'll get the special identifier for code, and then it will set the special identifier code to be the global special identifier flower. That is my flower emote. Now, in any command that I make, if I want to include this emote in a chat message, all I have to do is this. I have made the special identifier. So if I do that, it will post my emote. This means that if I want to, I can change this code itself in the text file, trigger this action group, and then this will automatically update, as will every single command that has this special identifier in it. It has saved me so much time. I love it so much. I highly recommend it if you are the type of person to change up your emotes. And then that's just what all of them do. So then this one, it will read line 2, it'll find the special identifier code. It will then set the special identifier eyes to equal what is read in that text file. And it will make it globally usable. Line 3. And again, name your actions so I know what all of these are. But now I can just add any emote in using these global special identifiers. And if I want to, I can go back and I can change the emotes. Super nice, super easy. Just a little bit of setup and you'll have a very editable emote list in your commands. Reminders for going live messages. If you are the type of person who wants to post a live message, or if it's something you always need to set up, that it has to be a manual thing. Has to be a manual thing. You always have to do it at the start of your stream and you always forget to do it. Super easy way to give yourself a little reminder. On stream start, don't get too worried about everything that opens here. On stream start, you can use the wait command. You can have it wait 300 seconds or however long you want it to, and then send a chat message. Reminder to do the thing. And spell it right, unless you're like me. And that's just a really nice way to remind yourself if you want to do going live messages, if you need to set up closed captions at the start of your stream, if you need to reset something, if you have anything manual that you need to do at the start of every stream and you want to remind yourself, this is a good way to do that. Updating text that is within a command. I've used a Bongo Cat room example for this. If you're in the co-working community, you'll probably know what Bongo Cat is. I have 2 commands for this. One that's a moderator one and one that's for everyone. My moderator one, I do !new bongo space the room code. It's basically, there's this, I can show you. You got this little guy. Oh, I can't, wait. Can I do it this way instead? Yeah. See that little guy? That's a Bongo Cat. You can have a room and you can have multiple cats. And you can see each other typing. But I make rooms for it so people can join if they want to. !new bongo space the room code. Then what it will do is it will make bongo code all args globally usable. And it will run the command bongo cat. And you'll see here, special identifier bongo code, special identifier bongo code. There's other ways you can do this. So you can also save the information to a text file if you want to instead. If you don't want to have to set it every stream, you will have to use a text file though. So if we have any dreamy hunters from Animal Crossings, that was a phase of my life. We could do !new dreamy space name. That can check to see if the whole file of dreamies I've already found contains the name. And if it contains the name, it can append it. And then if I do ! dreamies, it'll post all of the names of the people I found. And that's another way to update a text chat message. And then finally, this is a really fun thing that if you do a lot of challenge runs, or if you have a lot of games where you have death counters for, this is a really fun thing that you can do to make it so that you only have one command that will always give the right information depending on the game you're playing, for example. So, if you do a load of challenge runs, and say you want people to just be able to do !challenge, and it posts the information about the challenge you're doing at the moment, you can have a conditional, and you can do if stream title contains challenge 1, for example. You would have to write challenge 1 in your title for this. Chat message, information about challenge 1. If stream title contains challenge 2, information about challenge 2. Then this way people only need to know one command for your chat. You only need to know one command for your challenges. You can also reverse engineer this. So say you have the death counter. If stream game equals game 1, counter, add to counter, game 1 deaths. Update 1. If stream game is game 2, game 2 deaths. And then the same way, you could even have it so that when someone does !death count, if stream game equals game 1, instead it has a chat message that does game 1 deaths. And it'll post however many deaths in game 1. And that's a really fun way to have one command do multiple things. And change depending on what game you are in. Now there is an automatic VIP system that I have. It's a lot. I will talk you through it. Hopefully, everything that I've taught you up until now will hopefully mean that you can understand it a little bit better. I have a system. Every time someone is given cookies, it checks to see if it has 75. If it has 75, it adds them to a text file called next month. When MixItUp detects that the month has changed when I open the application, it reads this next month file, line 1 at a time, and gives them VIP. It then reads this month text file, 1 line at a time, and removes their VIP. It then copies the text for next month and saves it over this month, replacing it, so that in the next month they will get removed. You can now in MixItUp, if you want to, specify a time that you want someone to be a VIP for. This wasn't a thing when I made this system, but the system works perfectly fine for me anyway. But if I go to Twitch and VIP user, you can do an automatic removal if you want. This wasn't available when I made this system, and this system also wouldn't work if you do want it to be stages rather than having to remember how long you have left. The way I do it means that you'll know that on the 1st of every month you're not going to have VIP anymore. So the way this works, you need action files, you need text files, you need events, you need inventory, you need special identifiers, and you need counters. The setup, you need to create 2 text files, the ones I mentioned, the current month and next month. Then you want to make 2 action groups. Your first action group, it's going to check. And now I'm making this a little bit simpler than my version because my version requires maths. So instead we're going to focus on if someone's been following for a month. If for a month, for a year, they get VIP. So if user follow days is greater or equal than 365, and because they could possibly get this if they've been following for 366, 367, 368, we're also going to add a currency, user check VIP, so if it also equals 0. So this will only work if they have been following for more than 365 days, and also if they haven't received this VIP before. If that happens, then it will add their name, appended to file, to the next month text file. It'll save their username. That's action group number 1. That you can add that to if they enter chat, and it will run and it will add them to the text file for next month. Then second action group is what will happen when the month rolls over. So conditional. If date month does not equal month. Now these two, date month is an inbuilt special identifier that posts the number of the month we are on. This is a counter that I make called month. If date month does not equal my counter, the first thing it will do is it will update the counter month to set it to be the same as date month. This means that this will never run again until these don't equal the same. As soon as a month changes over, these two won't equal, and it will update it so that they equal each other. Cycle continues. Then what will happen is we're going to set a counter called index. And we're going to set it to 0. And this is why naming these is important. Set index to 0. Then we can collapse them, we still know what's going on. And file read and write, we want to count the lines in file for next month. And we'll have this save as lines. So find lines. Now we're going to have another conditional. This is where the repeat whilst true is going to come in. Repeat while true on, whilst index is less than lines. And then again, we're going to add the counter here. Index is going to get updated 1. So this will eventually stop because this will run and then it'll add 1. Comes back here, it's less than lines, it'll add 1. If it's less than lines, it'll add 1. As soon as it's equal to or more than the amount of lines you have, it will stop working. Add. Update. Index. Read specific line from file. The line we are reading is index. File. Next month. Special identifier name. Result. Find result. Then, Twitch, VIP user, username, result. We have 0, which is, say we have 5 people in the next month file. Index is 0, which is less than 5. It will increase to 1, it will read the first line, and it will VIP that person. 1 is less than 5. It will increase to 2, it will read the second line, it will VIP the second person. 2 is less than 5, it will increase to 3, it will read the third line, it will VIP the third person. 3 is less than 5, increase to 4, read the fourth line, VIP fourth person. 4 is less than 5, increase to 5, read the final fifth person, VIP them. 5 is not less than 5, it will no longer run. Then, name this VIP, duplicate this. Remove VIP. In between these, you want to set index back to 0. Find lines in this month. Then it's going to run the same. Instead of VIPing them, you're going to remove VIP. This will remove everyone from the previous month. And then finally, to finish it off, we've got a couple text files. You want to reset next month last. Before this happens, you want to read from file next month and get whatever the special you can have. Next, read, next, save this. So you want to save to file this month. Next. Make sure that's a special identifier. And then you want to reset the this month file. The next month file, sorry. I will go back over all of this. But when a month changes over, it will VIP a bunch of people and remove VIP from a bunch of people and then reset things. So, if date month does not equal month because the month have changed over, then we update the counter to be the same as the month, so it won't happen again the whole month that we're on. Then we're going to set the index counter to 0, and we're going to count how many lines are in the next month file. Then we're going to have a repeat while true conditional that whilst index is lower than the amount of lines there are in a file, it will add 1 to index, it will read the line that index is, and it will VIP that person. And it will keep doing that until it matches the amount of lines there are in the text file. It will then reset the index to 0, read how many lines there are in the this month file, and then it will do the same as it did for VIPing people, but it will remove VIP from the people. And then finally, it will read the next month file, save it over the this month file, and then save nothing to next month, so it's a clean slate ready for new people to get added to the list. And that is how I do my automatic VIPs. This is one of the most complicated things that I have, and I have it set to trigger after a mathematical equation. This only happens once when someone has been following for the correct amount of time. Now, another really complicated thing would be event setup. This is, I think, the final thing. Event setup. If you want your stream to automatically trigger a load of things on an event so you don't have to switch things on and off, that will be in your events. On stream start, and I can just show you what I have because I have one of these. If it's the 11th, which is when I do a monthly event, I do a monthly event on the 11th. If it is the 11th, it will post in Discord that the Offerings of Time event is live specifically. So it changes what it says to acknowledge the fact that the event is happening. It will enable the Offerings of Time reminder timer. So it's switching on and off timers that we have that are specific to this event. So it enables a chat timer, it enables an overlay timer, which is a pop-up that I have that happens every so often that tells you about things that are happening. It enables a chat command that is related to the command, so if people do ! offerings of time, that will only work on this day and it will automatically turn it on and off for me, which I'll go to later. And then here are a bunch of overlays. It will enable my clock that I have that will show the time. It will enable the border that I have made to make it look different during the event. It will enable the timer that I have that will be going, and it will enable another image that happens for my event. If there are overlays that you want to happen specifically for an event, if you want there to be timers that are available during an event, if you want there to be commands available during an event, if there's anything else you can think of that you can switch on and off, maybe you can turn on and off a game that you want. All it does is it checks date day, and it checks it's the 11th, because for me it happens on the 11th. You can change this. You can have if stream title contains happy birthday, or it's my birthday, or just the word birthday. If stream title contains streamiversary, then it can turn all of these on. And then what you want to do is you want to export this so that you have everything. Then you want to go to channel stream stop. If date day equals 11th, or whatever your identifier was, whatever your conditional was, import here and then switch it all from on to off. So if on the event you want it to turn off, when you stream stop, you want it to turn it off. That way, you start stream on the day of the event, it will turn all of your event stuff on, you finish stream on the day of your event, and it'll turn it all off again. And that is how I automate my events as well. And that is everything that I can possibly think of to help you build MixItUp commands with the utmost confidence and know how to make complicated commands. Thank you for sticking around this long.